Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow.
All right, all set, Bob. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7 p.m. Let me call to order the meeting of the Merrimack Planning Board for Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Before we dive any deeper into our meeting, let me go through some of our protocol for remote meetings. As chair of the Merrimack Planning Board, due to COVID-19 crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are providing the public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing either of the following phone numbers: 1-312-626-6799 or 1-929-205-6099, and entering the meeting ID, which is 914-1299-7513. The meeting may also be viewed on Merrimack TV Channel 20, Comcast Cable, or Merrimack TV webpage at www.merrimacktv.com. We are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We've previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided in the meeting agenda posted on the Town of Merrimack's website at www.merrimacknh.gov/planning-board. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has problems with access, please email cwolfe, WOLFE, at merrimacknh.gov. And we are adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access it. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn it and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. Let me advise each member, please state your name, and also please state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, and that is required under the Right to Know law. Let's see, Alistair Mills.
I'm present, Mr. Chairman, and there's nobody in the room with me.
Frank Cattell.
Neil Ancatel here. I am alone in my office.
Nelson Disco.
I'm at home and I'm alone in my house.
Excellent. I am Bob Best. I am at my home in Merrimack, and there's nobody in the room, although there's various other people in the house who may accidentally stumble into the room and then run away real fast because it's a planning board meeting. With that, let's return to our agenda. And let me advise everyone that our next planning board meeting is scheduled for January 5th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Remotely via Zoom. Let me appoint Nelson into a voting position for tonight's meeting so that he can participate. We'll put him in for Lynn Christensen's position on the board. For public participation during the virtual meeting, let everyone know that in order to participate, follow the instructions that are on the meeting agenda and then press *9 on the phone when prompted to do so in order to raise your hand. and to do that during a public hearing section of the meeting. That will let me know that you would like to speak as part of the public hearing, and then we'll call on you. Please also, any applicants or members of the public, please speak clearly, identify yourself for the record with both your name and address. That completes the procedural call to order for our meeting, and the next item on our agenda is our Planning and Zoning Administrator's report. Casey, do you have any report for us tonight?
No, I have nothing for the board today.
Do any members of the board have questions for staff on any matter? Seeing none, then we'll move on our agenda. Item 3 is a discussion of the capital improvement plan program for the town of Merrimack. Let's see, Paul, are you leading our discussion for that?
Yes, I am, Chairman Best. Thank you for having us tonight to go over our capital reserve funds plan for our major projects. What I'd like to do is I'd like to share my screen if possible.
Yes. Let's see.
Find the right one. There we go.
Allow, redeem,
there it is.
remove. You got it. Okay.
Can everybody see my screen now?
I do.
Yes.
Yep.
So, in years past, we did this kind of opposite. We used to go in front of the council and then the planning board. And in reviewing the charter, we noticed that the CIP was supposed to go in front of the planning board and then the town council. So in 2020, since it's been such a great year, we decided to do things right and come to the planning board first with the capital improvement plan. As you'll see, what I did is I kind of truncated the spreadsheet into the project names. There are 28 projects underneath the general fund that I will be presenting to the board, and then we have another 9 projects underneath the wastewater treatment fund. I will be going through each one of these projects individually with you, unless you'd like me just to skip to the cut and chase. A lot of these projects have been on here for years, and they're moving up in closer to being started, and we're looking at a bunch of different items as we go through. A lot of these projects are slated with some state funding issues, where the state's helping us out with 80-20 matches and things of that sort. So that's why some of these projects are plugged in some of the outer years. With that being said, okay. So those are the 9 projects for wastewater I'll be going over that we'll discuss. The first project is the safety complex. The safety complex is what we're looking to do is we're looking to take the central fire station and the police station and combine the 2 staffs into one location. Both buildings were built in the 60s. Some expansion and some renovations that were done in the late 90s. We have outgrown these 2 facilities, and we believe a new state-of-the-art safety complex will allow towns first responders to be co-located and will better serve the community. We're looking at doing that, hopefully, if everything comes to fruition in the next couple of days, to get it on the bond ballot for the next year, 2021-22. Along with the safety complex is the South Fire Station. This facility is in the south end of town. It was built in '73. We did an upgrade in '87. We did some other upgrades in the 2015 timeframe to try to give as much living space as possible and break out the bedrooms for the firefighters to allow female firefighters to be able to be at Station 2. One of the issues that we had with this facility is that it's a 1 unisex bathroom. The kitchen is been original to the building, so we're looking at doing those upgrades and to make the station a little more functional for the apparatus that we do have now. Moving in, the garage bay areas are very tight with some of our fire trucks and an ambulance, and we have some other things in the bays that we're looking at maybe proceeding with as well. So we'd like to do the safety complex and the South Fire Station as a combo project, and that would be, like I said, hopefully in the 21-22 year.
Oh, would you like to receive questions along the way or at the end, or?
It's up to the board, whatever the board feels.
Probably would be easiest as we're touching on the projects rather than trying to remember what we wanted to ask after you get down to the bottom of the list.
That's fine.
Excellent. So on the fire police, the public safety complex and the South Fire Station, those do sort of kind of go together because of the related departments and services. When this is completed, the infrastructure for the town will be one safety complex and then one additional small fire station to the south, and that's the entire setup for all police and fire, or will there be any of the other that are kept online or used for limited purposes?
No, we believe that the central fire station will go away, the police station will go away, and the buildings will go away, and that's one of the things that we have to work through and figure out what we're going to do with those buildings as we get further along in this process right now. But
so
that's our
what
plan.
of the kind of sort of fire station near Gilbert Crossing, has that got a future, or is that going to go away as well?
No, that will stay right now, but it's going to stay in its current form. Basically, it's the call fire divisions fire. That's where they do a lot of their training and things of that sort. It stores some of our trailers and stores some of our other equipment, like our boats in the wintertime and things of that sort. So right now, there are no plans for that fire station to be built up. We're actually looking at locations in the center of town area for the fire station to be able to go out to Gilbert Crossing to serve the town of Merrimack and things of that sort in a timely manner. So those are some of the things that we're working through right now, trying to find a location for the safety complex.
Okay. So I know that there have been some limited discussions in the past about perhaps like an ambulance substation or something in the north end of town that was related to, but not a fully staffed fire station. Is there any plan to do something like that, or is that yet to be determined based on where the new safety complex will go, or is that something we will not need and we're off the table?
That's something to be determined, to be quite honest with you, depending on where the new station goes and the relative response times and things of that sort. But as of right now, that is not in the next 6 years, we don't foresee that as a discussion point right now.
Excellent. How many people are in the fire department? How many staff members and firefighters?
Total staff is
approximately. Don't have to be perfect. 36
firefighters, captains, and lieutenants. There's another. There's about, I think, 45 to 47 people total between the fire department, fire inspectors, fire marshal, senior staff, things of that sort. Management staff down there, plus the firefighters. I believe there's around 45 to 47. Putting in the code division, there's another 4. So roughly around 50 people there and about 50 people in the police department.
So the new safety complex and the South Fire Station total will have about 100 employees?
Yeah, kind of similar to what we have now, yes.
Yeah, unless there's some efficiencies or some combined efforts or anything. And I don't know whether there would be or not. Do you know whether there would be for any, reception or 911 or anything where there'd be some ability to gain some efficiency, or because of the differences between firefighters and police officers, do they really have to kind of stay in their silo?
Right now, the efficiency that we have is we have a combined dispatch center, and that would be something you would be able to pick up if you move these two divisions together, but we're already doing that. There would be office staff is for secretaries and office staff. It's in these two departments it's like 4 or 5 people total. So it's not a lot of efficiencies that we can pick up in that realm either. So right now we're just looking at continue our operations as is in these divisions. And as we get further along in the process and further along once we're down there to look for the efficiencies of maybe combining some efforts.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Do other members of the board have questions about the police and fire? Nelson, I see your hand up.
Yes, I do. I have a couple. First thing that occurred to me is where is the building inspection department going? Is that going with this new complex?
Yes, Nelson, it will be moving the dispatchers and the building code will be moving into the safety complex as well.
Safety complex. And is there a process in mind for selecting the site for this new feature in town? Is there some committees, somebody who's looking at this, I guess I would ask?
We're looking at a couple different locations in the center of town, and once we get that kind of finalized of where we think it might go, then we'd start up a committee to discuss further locations and buildings and things of that sort.
Yeah, to some extent, if you don't own the property, you got to keep quiet on your targets so you don't mess up your negotiations.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have right at the moment. A lot of detailed questions that it's too early to ask, I guess. So I'll pass for further questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Nelson. Alistair and Neil, do you have any questions on that?
No, it's except to say how nice it is that after 12 years, the recommendation for the South Fire Station is what I suggested 12 years ago.
Well, you're just way ahead of your time. Paul, what's up with the net? What else you got for us?
Well, we have done a large, as you know, we have done a lot of bridges in town. I think all our major bridges have been replaced except for the bridge on DW Highway by the MYA / Piningburg area and the Chamberlain Bridge. As you'll see, the next two projects talk to that about the bridge on US Route 3 over Babuzik Brook. Because we're getting some state funding with this is pushed out to the 23-24 year. I just want to let you know that the bridge is on the red list. It gets checked every year. It is structurally deficient right now, according to the federal sufficiency rating of 60%. We're looking at it. We're working with our architects and our engineers, I should say, to design the bridge so it's shovel ready once the money becomes available for the construction. So we're looking at that. There's also some timing with this project, as well as because, as you know, about 11 miles of the Effie Everett Turnpike, I believe, are run through Merrimack or so, give or take. So that when they're doing that construction, as you know, traffic will probably get off the Effie Everett and try to circumvent it and go through town on DW and try to catch back up either at exit 13 or continue up through Bedford. So there's some timing but some timing that needs to be done with this project, and the state coordination, I guess, is a better word. So right now we're looking between 2023 and 24 in the state bridge aid program, which will help us drastically because they pay 80% of the construction and engineering cost of a bridge. So the town only has to come up with 20% on an estimated $3.6 million project for this bridge replacement.
Excellent. Thank you for that. 3.6 million. It seems like in recent years, as we've seen some others, that there were some that were a little bit more than that, in the $4 million range. I don't know if that was because there was temporary bridges involved or not, but is my memory bad, or is this bridge a little less expensive than some of the ones we've seen in the past? Or
it's about the same price as some of the other ones we've seen. That's the estimate based on DOT standards that they had was 3.6. It could be more, it could be less, but it's right in that ballpark right now, 3.6. So it's pretty constant. What was the bridge over in Bedford Road, the Bedford Road Bridge we just replaced and things of that sort. So
I think when we talked about this before, because of the strange location for this bridge, not really strange, but the unique location for it, that we would not be able to do a temporary bridge during construction for this one. Is that true?
And that's why I have Kyle on the call. Kyle, can you answer that question?
Sure, I can answer both of those questions. First to the cost of the project. The cost that's in the CIP is what's programmed in the 10-year plan currently. We now know from submitting our feasibility study and our recommended project alternative to NHDOT, which we're waiting for approval on, that the bridge is going to cost a fair amount more than what's programmed. So obviously the state and the feds will have to help us come up with that money for their 80% share. And that's something we're working on. We do plan to have a full 2-lane detour bridge adjacent to the project for this project. Given the high traffic volumes on Daniel Webster, there's really no way to not have a 2-lane temporary bridge for this project. We did look at other options, phasing the project and keeping half the traffic on the existing bridge while we build the other half and putting half of the traffic onto McGaw Bridge Road. But the geometry of McGaw Bridge coming into Wire just really isn't conducive to truck traffic, and so we elected not to propose that alternative.
Thank you for that. And that makes a lot of sense. It's quite a relief. I think if we're contemplating that part of DW Highway being closed for the time it takes for bridge construction, that would be a huge disruption to the town. And when we were discussing that in the past, I can't remember if that was just a possibility or whether that was thought to be what the plan was going to be. But it was certainly an eye-opener. Now, I remember when we did, what was it, Turkey Hill Bridge that had a temporary bridge by it, that the cost of the temporary bridge is something in the $1 million range. Does that seem correct, or is my memory right on that?
Yeah, your memory's pretty spot on about that. That's generally what they cost. The Turkey Hill project, construction got the bid. They own their own temporary bridges, which are acro bridges. So it was actually only $600,000 on that project. But typically, most construction companies have to rent those, and $1 million is kind of the going cost, particularly for a span as big as the one we're going to be doing on this project.
But necessary. So what's the construction time period for that bridge?
Right now,
in terms of length of time, not in terms of what year.
It'll probably be 2 construction seasons. The first construction season will be getting the temporary detour road and the bridge in and starting to demolish the bridge. They would continue working to build the bridge over the winter and finish the following year with the bridge deck and road work leading up to each end of the new bridge.
Will the new bridge be significantly wider than the current roadway is there, and will it have sidewalks?
It will be significantly wider, primarily because of sidewalks. Pavement-wise, it won't be a whole lot wider, but it will have sidewalks on both sides.
Okay. Excellent. I don't have other questions on this bridge. Does anybody else have any questions on this bridge? No. And Paul, lead us into the next bridge.
So the next bridge is Chamberlain Bridge over the Souhegan River. And this project is slated for construction in 25-26. This is a rehabilitation of this bridge. It's unique in that it's a curved bridge and a straight bridge. It's also on the red list for bridges. One of the reasons why it has a cantilever sidewalk system that we'll be looking at to replace and actually put a sidewalk system in. This project will be in conjunction with the TAP grant project for the river walkway through the area. So this project will be in conjunction with that. We'll get the river walkway done, the river walk done, and then the following season we're hoping to begin bridge repair on the Chamberlain Bridge to make it satisfactory and get off the red list for it.
I Excellent. So the cost of the rehabilitation on this one is totaling $215. Is that the full expected cost, or is that really in a preliminary stage? Or
that's at a hi Bob. That's at a very preliminary stage at this point. As Paul mentioned, some of the features of the bridge that caused it to go on the red list are being addressed as part of the Souhegan River Trail project. So that'll take care of some of that work. The biggest work is doing some rehabilitation to the concrete portion of the arch. Most people don't know that the arches are actually half stone arch bridge and half concrete bridge from when they were widened many years ago by New Hampshire DOT. So the concrete side of it has some deficiencies that need to be patched. And then for the stonework, we need to barge and remortar basically all of the joints. So it's a fairly modest project. We don't anticipate a bigger project because of the aesthetics of the bridge. To bring it into compliance, it would be quite an undertaking, and obviously, I don't believe the town wants to lose the look of the bridge.
It definitely has a little bit of historic features to it. But if the total cost of the project is in that couple $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 range, it would seem like we could have tackled this one years ago. I know that it's great to have the 80% from the bridge fund, but this poor little bridge is such a center part of town, and it's got the steel plates covering sidewalks, and it would be great to have that facelift when it's done. And no criticism for putting it into the plan when we did, but at that cost, it seems like that's almost operating funds kind of thing.
The reason why it's also less, as Kyle has said, is because some of the deficiencies are going to be handled when we do the Souhegan River Trail, the River Walk. So that's taking into account some of that. If we had to go and do this construction and we just have to go back and do it again once we do the repairs from the Souhegan River Trail, that's why it's pushed out a little bit with it. It's not so much the money part of it, it's the timing of the repair, the first repair that needs to be done so that we can do these second and third repairs.
And I would add, Bob, that the sidewalk where the steel plates are, that is part of the Souhegan River Trail project. Those sidewalks will be repaired as part of that project, which we still expect to happen next year.
Excellent. Excellent. I know that this is going back to the fire station, which was item 1, but it made me think of it because Chamberlain Bridge is right next to the central fire station. When those are not needed, we talked about them sort of going away, but does that mean that the properties are going to be sold to private interests that may want to buy that fire station or buy that property?
Determination hasn't been made on these properties. What we're going to do, that's part of the process that will come down when we're looking at the bonding and cost of the projects and determining what, if any, if we need the property, and if we don't need the property, then if we're going to sell it. So there'll be a committee that gets formed to make that decision.
Okay. Sorry for jumping around. Does anyone else have questions on Chamberlain Bridge? Nelson.
I want to do what you just did. I want to jump back for a second and talk to that Babusick Brook Bridge. And you're talking about building 2 temporary lanes to replace the lanes that are there while this is under construction. As I understood what you said, that's going to take some major rework on the park land, and or I guess if it's going on that side, it can't go on the other side. So you're going to put 2 lanes over in there. Is that what's in your mind? Or are you going to do these one at a time? A little fuzzy on how much of an impact this is going to be to the park.
Kyle, can you tackle that one?
Sure. Yeah, so the feasibility study shows the temporary bridge being downstream or east of the existing bridge. Mm-hmm. There will be a significant easement on required that we'll need to obtain on the northeast corner, which is a private property.
Yeah.
Couple of easements there, leading up to Twin Bridge Road. And then on the southeast corner, of course, it's the what we know as the MYA parcel. And there's plenty of room to work in there, but it will take up a significant amount of that gravel parking area and the front area of the parcel there as well.
Then it would restore it, I would hope to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and there would be a replanting plan to go along with the project.
With the on the Babusick Brook Bridge, will it be essentially in its same location, or will it tend to be a few feet one way or another from? And will DW Highway be realigned because of it when it's finally done?
The alignment of the road is going to be the same. The profile of the bridge is actually being raised. Right now, the bridge is kind of in a low point. So all of the water kind of gets to the bridge and tries to shed left and right from there, which is, of course, when you have a concrete structure in a winter salt environment, that's the least thing you want for long-term stability of your bridge. So the engineers actually designed the profile of the bridge to not be the low point of the road, so that it's coming up a little bit, and but we're still able to tie into Wire Road and Twin Bridge Road and the neighboring parcels just fine.
Awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for allowing us to skip around and jump around. Are there more questions on Chamberlain Bridge, or are we ready to move on? Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So, Public Works has a pretty intense stormwater drainage improvement plan going forward as part of the MS4 requirements and things of that sort. Some of the anticipated projects during the construction season is the Woodland Drive Phase 2, which you'll see, South Babusick Lake Road, Thornton Road West, Waterville Road, Severance Bridge Road, Burt and Valley Street, and townwide catch basin repairs. We've put money aside, about $250,000 a year for the next couple of years to do some of these projects, and now $300,000 in the budget set aside strictly for stormwater and drainage improvements throughout town. Dawn, our engineer in town, deputy DPW director, she is on top of stuff, and she has been going out and about. We just hired an individual to help in the MS4 process that will also be looking at some of these stormwater drainage issues and some of the MS4 impact. So this is a line item that we've used for years. It's basically a catch-all for drainage, just to show that we are trying to work with it, fix our culvert extensions, our roadway drainage, and some of our piping that's been deteriorating over the years.
Thank you, Paul. The only question I have on that one is really for the benefit of anybody that may be listening, and maybe this is a Kyle question. We all know MS4 and where its origins and background and all that, but for some people that may be speaking Greek, can you give us a 2-sentence or 4-sentence primer on what we're talking about with MS4 and all of that?
Sure, I can. Thanks, Bob. So we have a pretty extensive network through the town, upwards of 5,000 catch basins, many pipes that lead out to rivers, streams, brooks, wetlands, those kind of things. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, actually regulates all of the communities in the states that discharge their collected stormwater into the said waters of the United States. So we have a permit which is called the MS4 permit, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, which means that our stormwater system is actually separate from our sewer system, which goes to the wastewater treatment plant. So this is just focusing on our stormwater system. And we have a new permit that we got in 2018 18 that replaced the previous permit from 2003 that has many, many demands on our system and on our reporting and how to treat stormwater. So I guess that's the nickel tour of MS4.
Excellent. That was well explained. And I guess the overall objective of this is to protect the quality of the water in the Merrimack River and other surface waters where we may be draining water to.
Exactly right.
Excellent. Does anybody have questions about stormwater drainage in this presentation? Thank you guys for the little primer on MS4 and that highlight. I think that we get so used to hearing these things that we just race past them sometimes, and doesn't hurt to give it a little bit of better explanation. Paul, what's next?
Something that's near and dear to the planning board's heart, some sidewalks.
I saw this in there and I was cheering and I'm like, look at this. I can't wait to talk to Paul about this. We're going to applaud out loud when you get done explaining this one.
That's it. So right now, as you know, the council has set aside $200,000 in this current year budget. They approved the project on Woodbury Street, connecting the high school to DW Highway. Before it snowed, we had some surveying work done out there. So we're starting the plan to get that sidewalk in on Woodbury Street. We will hopefully will have that during the next construction season. So it would be the spring, summer of 2021 for that. But the town council has made a commitment for $200,000 in the sidewalk to expand sidewalks over the next several years. So next year we're looking at areas, and I believe we have 4 or 5 projects that we did put on a plan for the town. We're looking at areas such as Brunswick Road, things of that area, projects that we can complete and shore up some of the sidewalks, some of the areas. $200,000 does not go very far if you have to buy easements, move utility poles and things of that sort. So we're really looking for some low-hanging fruit to get this project done, but we really want the visibility of the sidewalks in the center of town and around the center of town as much as possible, around DW Highway, things of that area. So that's what we're looking at in our sidewalk master plan and moving forward. And of course, we will work with the town center committee on this, as well as the planning board as we go forward with some of these sidewalk projects.
It's fantastic, Paul. Thank you very much, and we are really pleased with it. And it isn't. I want to make sure, just to explain, it's not simply a personal preference for sidewalks by members of the board, but pretty well documented that you improve the value of properties, you improve the desirability of the community for people to want to live and work here if they can walk and get around a little bit with less cars, that it really does, it's an important enhancement for the town. One of the things that I'd offer up as a comment, and I know you won't have an answer now, but maybe you can have the question in mind the next time town council comes together or discusses this kind of thing. And that is, as a planning board, we have for a very, very long time had a provision in our regulations that allowed developers that if they wanted to avoid building their own sidewalk in front of their property, they could make an arrangement with the board to make a payment in lieu of building sidewalks, and then that money would be available for incorporation into these projects that are ongoing around town if they have a reasonable nexus or connection to whatever that development is. And the planning board has not used that in many years, because I think about 10 years ago when we did use it, there weren't any ongoing sidewalk projects to mix the money in with, and the money ended up getting returned to the developers. So point of all that explanation is, if you guys are going to have regular sidewalk projects every year, does the council support the planning board beginning to use that regulatory framework again? And should we start to consider it when we hear from applicants who might normally have to build a sidewalk, but could contribute to this instead if they didn't want to build their own?
I would think they would be open to listening to that, understanding that some of like you said, it has to be in an area where the building is going on. So for instance, you couldn't, for lack of a better term, the development that's going up on Madeline Bennett, you couldn't use that money to build a sidewalk in front of the Last Rest Cemetery. It has to be kind of in the same vicinity of the project. And I think that would be something that the council would be interested in listening to a little bit further. I won't speak for the council, but they're always open to these kind of ideas and suggestions to move forward. And I will bring that back with me to the council meeting and talk to them. And
that'd be great to get a little feedback from that. And I understand the requirement that the money that a developer puts forward has to be for a sidewalk project that's got some nexus to their own development. When Nashua has done this, because we didn't reinvent the wheel, they've been doing this. They simply divided the city into quadrants, and there was obviously four quadrants. And when you consider 1/4 of the city of Nashua, it's not exactly a requirement that it be within, sight distance of your property. It could be some significant area away, but still be regarded as having a nexus if it was in a quadrant where the project was being developed. I don't think that we would be quite that expansive with the use of it, but from a legal standpoint, you can have that kind of a view where it doesn't have to be abutting the parcel that the developer's doing or even within a mile of it, for example. But it does have to have some sense that there's a connection for them. So anyway, thank you for that. I would love to hear back from the council on that. Nelson, I know that we can't let you go on a sidewalk improvement plan without saying something.
Oh, I gotta. First of all, I want to thank you for pointing out the merits of these sidewalks, and to point out one more thing that's come out from our work on the town center committee. We find a lot of public support for building more sidewalks. It's not just a few of us old nuts who are looking at the past. The people who are in the town, who stop by our booths and everything, everyone speaks in favor of building more sidewalks in the town center area. So I just wanted to put that on the table to add that to the things you added, Bob, which are very good points. I want to also point out to Paul that the town center committee at its last meeting came up with a list of priorities for the next build of sidewalks based on the old ITRAC study, which is our charge to look at the ITRAC study, which set out the priorities for certain sidewalks in the center of town. And we arranged those a little differently, and we've got a set of recommendations. They're slightly different than the ones that Kyle had put down, and Kyle has always pointed out to us that this wasn't a priority list, it was a wish list. So I just want to point out those two things, and certainly we make available to you the list of those items that are priorities. We will be meeting again in January to finalize the minutes, but they're listed in the draft minutes of the last meeting we had.
Okay. Yep.
So I want to point those things out. Thank you.
No, and we appreciate that, and we do look for your input in that town center committee input for these things. So great. Thank you.
Other comments, Nelson, Neil, or Alistair? Thank you again, Paul. I know that the planning board has at times been more vocal and sometimes less vocal about sidewalks, but I think the town council and the administration has really recognized what the planning board has said about this and taken it under consideration. And it may take a while for that attitude and view to change over time, but we're certainly really glad to see that it's gotten there. And I credit all the members of the council and the administration for arriving at that place. It's just really, really thankful for it. I think that's one of the
Amen.
Yeah, I think in terms of improving the community and things that people are going to notice and take use of. I mean, we all want to have our streets repaved when they're damaged or full of potholes. Everybody needs to have the sewer, but having a facility that you're actually excited about seeing and using, sidewalks are right up there. And Nelson's right. When we did surveys of these things, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was hundreds of people in favor and tens of people who had concerns, and very, very, very strong support for it among people that were responding to surveys. So.
Great.
All right. Sorry for taking so much of the meeting to address sidewalks. Let's go on to the next things.
So Gale Road between Nora and Joey, that is in the current year budget. Just want to give you a quick update on that. It looks like it's been being worked on over the winter. It looks like we're going to be during construction season that drainage improvement in the Gale Road, Nora to Joey drainage area will be improved during this year. The one I'm talking about now is Woodland Drive Phase 2 drainage improvements. This is the area of Woodland Drive. Deerwood, Birchwood, Pine Tree, Heartwood, and Timber in that area. Doing some drainage improvements in that area in the tune of about $2.2 million to fix some of the drainage issues that are in that area. Shady Lane, Joppa Road, Evergreen, Forest Drive, basically in that whole area. This is the second phase. Years ago, you might remember, we came across Babuzik Lake Road in that area to refix the drainage to bring us out to the river. This will just be that other portion, the neighborhood section of it, to fix those the drainage issues in that neighborhood section.
I don't have any questions about that. Does any other member have questions? Nelson.
Just one question. You talk about piping it to the river. Don't we have to pre-treat that now with MS4 and all of that? It's more than just a pipe to the river. Am I wrong on that?
Those are some of the details we have to work through, Nelson.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So one thing I can speak to, when we did the phase 1 portion, you may recall that was back in 2007 or 2008, as part of the drainage bond that the town passed at that point. Yeah. And the old system that we replaced as part of that work, primarily on Woodland and Heartwood, did go directly to the river. One of the pieces we put in between to help with that stormwater treatment was we actually put in some underground stormwater chambers. So all of the water that comes from that area is already treated before it gets to the river.
Excellent.
And you're planning to do that again, right, in this new phase?
Well, we're hoping the calculations show that what we've already built is sufficient to handle the additional flow. Excellent. But that's the determination we need to make.
Check your numbers. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Other comments or questions by members of the board? All right, Paul, lead us on.
So the next one is paving and infrastructure, paving improvements. We have done a lot of, about $1 million a year in paving, $1.1 million a year, and we try to continue to increase that by about $50,000 a year as we go on and go forward. We try to pave as many roads as we can. With that, we've been fortunate enough in the last couple of years that the asphalt prices have been staying pretty constant, so we're able to get a good number of miles for our bang for our buck, so to speak. And we've been able to do some major thoroughfares through town, such as Bedford Road and Amherst Road, where we were able to reclaim and inject into the base and rebuild the base, stabilize the base, and things of that sort. And we're hoping that will make those roads last that much longer in those areas and things of that sort. So we continue with our plan to pave as many roads as we can for about $1 million million, 1.2 million dollars a year to try to get some of these center road miles. For those people that are listening, we use an index, a pavement index, based on the road. And Kyle can explain this more because he's involved with it every day. But in layman's terms, we base it on the road, the cracks, potholes, the condition of the road, and it's all put into a paving index. And even though your road might be very low on the list, we try to get the bang for our bucks. And if we're paving, say, on the in the Woodland area and the Heartwoods and things of that sort, we're trying to do as many roads in that area as possible. Where your road might be in worse condition, but it might be in the Peasley Road area, we try to play that so we can get the bang for our buck when we do our paving. Because as you know, moving equipment and people's time is money, and if we can get them to stay in one location, we get more roads paved for the money that we do spend. We did some parking lots. We've done the senior center, the MYA parking lot this year. We repaved some of the aprons on our fire stations. We've done some crack sealing along the way to try to help make the roads that we have already paved last a little bit longer. So we're trying just about everything to keep our infrastructure and our roads together as best as possible.
Paul, other questions about paving? All right, lead on.
All right, then we have some gravel roads that we're looking at doing. These are looking at maybe 24, 25, just to look at paving some of these gravel roads. And for example, there's Greens Pond roads, there's Phil Mill roads, there's Leicester Road. There's a bunch of we still have a bunch of gravel roads in town. We're looking at a potential grader replacement in 2022. So we're looking at how does that fit in with if we pave these versus replacing a very expensive piece of equipment that is used to basically grade dirt roads and gravel roads. So that's where we're looking at with that. Those are some of the roads initially targeted in the program. They're not the most heavily traveled road. I know Leicester Road isn't heavily traveled. The one out of those three, I think Greens Pond Road is the most traveled versus Fuller Mill and Leicester. So we're just looking at some of these areas because of the cost of the equipment to try to get these roads paved. Thanks,
Paul. I think your estimate on the cost of a motor grader is conservative. I wouldn't be surprised if it's double that. I don't have any questions about the paving of the gravel roads. I don't know if anybody else does, or Kyle, did you have any comments to add? Or Nelson, you got a hand up.
Just one quick question having to do with Greens Pond Road. As I remember when one point we were looking at having a developer do that as part of a development that didn't happen. But there were significant drainage issues along that road included. And one of the things was if you paved it, you'd have issues with the drainage because now you're putting a lot more water into the side ditches and they couldn't handle it. They're open ditches right now. And I wonder if all of that's been thought about in pricing this, or we just wait till we get there.
Right now, we have not really dove into these projects to the point where we can say yes or no. But we do know that there will be some drainage work done with all these roads because you're going from you're putting a asphalt down which has runoff and things of that sort versus the gravel which it absorbs straight through. So there are some of those issues that we do have to look at when we do look at these roads further. But this was a jumping off point, so to speak, Nelson, for the town.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Several years out into the future, so there's a lot of time left to figure out the details on those.
Yes. The next one is one of our main. We talk about it all the time. DW Highway. We've paved it a couple of years ago. It's approximately 4.9 miles. we do it in sections. Last year, we really went and took an undertaking for some crack sealing and things of that sort. We're looking at 23, 24, and 25, 26 to go through, and instead of doing a major wear course on it, again, just hitting the areas where we feel we can rehabilitate that section of road before the conditions get so bad that we do have to do a full rehabilitation. So, and just once again, this is all part of our infrastructure. We have a large infrastructure in this town, investment in our roads, and DW is one of the major thoroughfares through our town. So we're just looking at things of that sort to keep the road in good shape so that it isn't as costly when we do go to repave it.
Okay. Questions about that?
Do you think this work will make the road good enough for when we have to face the inevitable increase in traffic while they do the Everett Turnpike?
Thank you for that, Alistair. I know that it's sort of the generally held belief that there'll be a lot of traffic that leaves the turnpike during construction to go onto the ground roads. I suspect it won't be as much as you think because it won't be faster to be on DW Highway.
No.
Under any daytime or any circumstances, no matter what's going on Turnpike, it's never going to be faster to be on the ground level roads, absent some accident or something that disrupts the road.
Right. To answer your question, DW is unique, and we found this out when we had to replace that culvert over by King Cone. DW has it's a cement road base. It's a concrete road base, so which is great for that. It was built as a highway by DOT years ago, so it's just the wearing course of the asphalt that we've been replacing over the years. The base is still in great shape. There's been some infrastructure repairs we had to do, like that culvert and things of that sort. But I fully believe that this road will be able to be held up with an additional traffic, because right now we're looking at about 17,000 cars on it a day, 13,000 to 17,000 cars a day, so of local traffic. So I think the road can handle that traffic and then some.
Thank you.
The next one is the Wire Road intersection.
Hang on a second, Paul. I'm sorry. I had myself muted. I tried to call on Bill and I was muted. Bill Boyd.
Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Excellent.
I apologize for my tardiness, but my dogs thank you. Just a quick comment, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 2018 or 2019 that the council made a policy shift regarding Director Fox's feedback that the roads were in quote unquote dire situation, where we went from, I think we had budgeted close to 800,000 at that particular period, and we moved it up to $1 million. So I want to say, does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's about right, Bill. We have moved it up, and we've tried to increase it every year about $50,000 from that million. We're up to about $1.1 million now from that $800,000 level.
So what I want to communicate to our listening audience and to the members of the community is that the council has made probably the more appropriate word used, but has made a firm decision that we're going to invest in our invest in our infrastructure, and paving obviously is a critical component to it. And while the price tag might give a little bit of a sticker shock, there are other communities surrounding us that don't pay for their paving in cash. They actually bond. They bond their paving projects, which I philosophically I'm dead set against. Especially as Director McCallie alluded to earlier, with the pricing that we're getting for aggregate now these days, it just makes a lot of sense for us to pay for this in cash. And the cheaper we can get the aggregate, potentially the more roads that are on the list we can get to and pave. So the council, like I said, from a policy perspective, we've made a commitment to making sure that all of our primary, secondary, and sub-secondary roads, we're following the paving index that Kyle works off of. We follow it, and we're budgeting accordingly. So this is a good thing, and I think it's important for other members on my other colleagues on the planning board to understand, and I'm sure they share the same sentiment, that keeping our roads in excellent condition is paramount for our community. It's a quality of life issue the way that I look at it. It's not just infrastructure. It goes directly to quality of life. So I just want to point that out to people that may be experiencing a little bit of a sticker shock with the pricing as it relates to paving. We're making a commitment to it, and it's a solid commitment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Boyd, and I'd certainly reinforce that statement and that view, that it makes sense to do these things on not a preventive maintenance, but on a maintenance schedule, and to tackle a little bit at a time. It's going to gain you the efficiency of having a asphalt provider, a pavement provider, working with the town every year in and year out, so you're on their schedule and you've got those relationships. If you waited 5-6 years and then tried to bond 30% of the pavement in town for 1 year, it would be an enormous amount. You'd pay a fortune in interest. You'd have trouble finding the company that could do that, and that just doesn't make any sense at all. It is a quality of life issue. We all sort of hear the comments from folks every time the snow flies, that our roads are paved one way or another, and people either like it or hate it and have the comments. But it's on the top of people's minds as they drive around with, what are the conditions of the roads? What are the potholes? Are they nice? Does the community present itself well? And this is an important part of that. So I commend the council for its approach. I'm sure that Kyle and his department are a lot behind the advocacy for that. It just makes more sense. Take care of your stuff on a regular even schedule rather than letting it all build up and then trying to choke it all down at once. So, Paul.
All right. So the next project is the Y Road intersection. And that is a Y intersection that is by the MYA. We are looking at a 2025-26, basically the year after the Route 3 bridge construction period is over, basically to tie in towards the end of that project, to redesign that intersection, whether it's going to be a T or a roundabout, is still remains to be seen. But we do know that intersection, there's been 19 accidents over from January 1st to September, January 1st, 2006 to September 18, 2012. There's been it's a very, I drive it every day. It's a very dangerous intersection at times, depending on traffic flow, people trying to cut across, people trying to take a left turn out of Wire Road, people trying to go around that car that's trying to take a left turn, people that are not paying attention to the car in front of them and rear-ending them because there's a 15-second gap and they thought the person should have went. So it's just something that we're looking at in the future, and to be with that bridge when we do that bridge replacement towards the end of that construction, to look at reconstructing this intersection as well.
Thanks, Paul. I don't have any questions about that. We certainly, Planning Board has more than a few times stated a preference for the roundabout, and obviously sidewalks. Other than that, Nelson, what do you got?
You hit the big nails on the head, but just one thought occurred to me here. When you say they're 1 year apart, could it not make sense to do these projects simultaneously or almost simultaneously so that they work together, and that the pieces that the bridge people build will mesh nicely with the pieces that the Wire Road people do, and the whole thing kind of works as a whole, as a one project.
Right. What we're doing, Nelson, is that we are looking at doing the design of that in 2022-23, the year before the construction of the bridge, so they can work in sync with one another. So we'll have the design for it. They'll know what it is when they build the bridge. they'll know what the design for that area is going to be, and then they can move forward so that we're not ripping up to realign for the bridge as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul. Other comments or questions about that one? Okay, no, let's go ahead then.
Turkey Hill Road intersection improvements. That's been before the council in September. I believe it's been through engineering and design. I believe that Kyle's group is going to bring that back forward in front of the council, maybe January, February, to get final approval and final go ahead to either put I believe there's a roundabout in that they're going to put there. So I believe they're just going to finalize some of the design of the roundabout and bring that forward to the council so they can see it. Hopefully construction is anticipated in the 2021, which would be spring of 21, summer of 21 season to do construction on that road there.
Thank you, Paul. What's the cost estimate on that one? It's not shown on my spreadsheet, the cost estimate for that one.
Yeah, the council had that in the budget last year. Give me a sec.
So the funds have already been allocated for this?
The funds have already been allocated for that, yes.
Awesome.
Where is it? About $300,000 has been allocated for that realignment. I think it was a little bit more. I think it was around 350 to 375 that the council approved for that project. So,
yeah,
the funds.
And if I can jump in, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle. You're back.
Yeah. Oh, I've been here. So as we developed the design for the roundabout and got our final estimates as the final design was completed, it's actually quite a bit more expensive, and that's why we're coming back to the council to represent both options with the updated costs, just to see which way the council wants to go on the project, given the significant cost increase over what we had estimated for the roundabout.
How much did it go up, Kyle?
I'm sorry?
How much did it go up?
It's about 600,000, Bill.
Okay.
Well, doubled.
So is the other realignment to change the geometry of it significantly cheaper than the roundabout choice?
Yeah, it looks like, so we're finalizing a cost estimate on that now, Bob, but that's going to be in the 200 to 250,000 range.
Okay. So
it is a significant difference.
Yep. Yeah, no question. I think that the people who travel frequently on the Turkey Hill Road leg of it will want the roundabout because it's going to move the traffic along so much better. The Babusick Lake folks would probably rather have the T because they're just going to cruise right past it and never stop. But the folks from the Turkey Hill side, even with it set up as a T junction, it's going to be a slower intersection than it would be for a roundabout for them.
Good point.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for the presentation on that. Any other comments on that one? Thank you, Kyle. Paul, lead us on.
All right, Merrimack River boat ramp access improvements. As you know, we own a parcel down by Thornton's Ferry off of Greeley Street with we have a boat ramp down there, or boat access ramp down there. So we're just looking at potential. We also own another property that was conservation purchased. So we're just looking at potentially improving the access to the Merrimack River for a boat launch. The good thing about this is there's actually good and bad. The fishing game has money to help us with the project. That's the good part. Another good part is Nashua, about near Greeley Park, has put in a boat launch as well onto the Merrimack, so bigger boats can launch down at Greeley Park. The bad part is that to get to our boat ramp, you have to go underneath the railroad trestle, and that kind of limits the size of the boats and the size of the trucks that can get through there to drop off a boat. So those are things that the council is looking at. The other thing that the council's looking at is that mostly every spring that road floods. So we got to look at building a road that is feasible and easily repaired, because we cannot get our heavy equipment down there to repair the roads. Because once again, we got to get underneath that train trestle, and it's a very low train trestle from the BMM Railroad. So, but we're looking at a match from the state. It's a 50-50. So we're looking at a total about $400,000 project, and it's a 50% match from the state. Looking in 22-23, so it's not that far off. So next summer, we'll I believe Kyle's department will start looking at that program and process a lot closer, and getting numbers and some other things. So by the time we come next year to the planning board, we'll have a great idea of what the project is going to look like.
Thank you, Paul. I know that there's a lot of challenges with the railroad and trying to make that access, and I'm sure that the town council and the engineering department will do the best to come up with a good solution. I think it's good that Nashua's doing what they're doing. That can kind of take some of that load off as well. But my view as a planning board member and chair for a while is that the Merrimack River has just always been this fabulous resource that we just can't quite use and get to very well from town. And wouldn't it be great if there was more access to it? And I know the railroad's always going to be the headache in that one, but anything that we can do to make sort of the river a more integral part of the town would be awesome. And I don't know that this one particular project is necessarily the whole answer to that, but it's a step in the right direction, I think. Any other comments or questions? Nelson, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just what I wanted to understand better. This project, as you envision it now, is to improve that underpass. Is that right? To dig it out more and build basically a new overpass for the railroad to keep going on. Is that what's in mind here?
I don't believe so, Nelson. I think that this is actually getting a boat ramp into the Merrimack River.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't really solve the whole problem, right?
It doesn't solve the whole problem with getting underneath that trestle.
No.
It's to get the boats in the water down there.
Oh, okay. What's needed down there? Some paving on the shoreland or something? Or what is
Kyle?
What's the project?
Yeah, so the two parts that we've really talked somewhat about is first the access to get under the trestle from Griffin Street. Right now, as you go down Greeley Street, you take a left onto Griffin Street, and it brings you back up, and then you have to take almost a 180-degree turn to get down.
180, Kyle.
Almost, yeah. And so we had developed a concept. It's a fairly steep road, but kind of like the T intersection turns that you see on Joppa Road and Severance Bridge Road. That kind of hard turn. It improves it. Still not great, but better than it is today. But then the second piece, the part that Fish and Game would cooperate with, is building the actual boat ramp itself, which generally they're made of precast concrete structures or cast in place concrete structures. But the physical ramp itself that would allow the launching of the boats into the river.
Good.
And then the missing piece in between, of course, is the thousands of feet of kind of beach sand access road in between the trestle and the eventual boat launch area.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? I look forward to seeing how this project develops. I think it would be a real nice improvement, nice amenity for folks in town to have this improvement done. Bill?
You know, it's anecdotally, it's been kind of ironic that, you know, we are the town of Merrimack and yet we can't access the Merrimack River with the boat. Former councilor Dan Dwyer used to lament about that all the time. Finley Rothaus, same thing. used to lament that, the town really needs a decent, boat launch to be able to put in. You got a canoe launch on Mill Street up in the north end of town, and you've got another boat launch on Island Drive that's limited specifically to Island Ponds, but you don't have anything that directly feeds the river. The council's talked about a couple of different locations, but I think with the Flyers Park down there, the Scada property becoming conservation, there's a lot of potential to putting the boat ramp down there that, you may have some additional expansion that may occur down off of Wright Avenue that may open up that particular parcel in the future. One of the things the council talked about, Kyle can confirm this, which, directly connecting Griffin Street directly to Daniel Webster Highway, because that part of Daniel Webster is owned by the state. It's very difficult to get a cut and be able to develop a road into there. Having that straight shot probably would make things a lot easier, but the clearance going underneath the railroad bridge, I think is it's probably like 9 or 10 feet, and maybe I'm being generous, Kyle. So it's very limited, and that part of the river is also shallow as well. So it's really meant to drop a small boat with an outboard motor predominantly. You're not going to be able to, get a 20-footer or 25-footer through there to launch from there, which is, probably good news for Nashua. Depending on the depth of the river, they may be able to accommodate that. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out with that boat ramp access, but I'll be the first one to tell you that to me, we have a canoe launch, but it's not the same thing. I'm sure that there are people in town that have their small boats that like to be able to put their boat in and either go north or south up the river and be able to, cast a line or take a ride up and down. So, looking forward to seeing how this will pan out over the next 18 to 24 months. But it may appear to be like in a no man's land part of town, but I think that the potential growth opportunity 3-5 years down the road, having that there, has a lot of potential to it. So I think the planning for it now is important. It's important to begin the process to get it done. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? All right, Paul, lead us on a little bit.
All right, so I'm going to skip to the sidewalk improvement. Once again, we already talked about that, but we are looking at some TAP grants over the next every 2 years to help us in that process, as well as the council putting their $200,000. And what we also talked about, Bob, with the potential of having, if the council sees fit, the potential of having that sidewalk fund, so to speak, to help with these projects. So that's what we're looking at with the TAP grants, and Nelson's very much involved in that TAP grant and issuing those TAP grants, helping us with going forward.
Don't I wish?
We're looking at a sewer extension project based on our master plan, and it's in the McQuestion Mayflower area of town, which is up by where we just had the developer fix the sewer coming off O'Gara Drive, which will make this project a lot easier for the town to be able to connect. We don't have to go up and around and through that neighborhood that cuts through on McQuestion through Babuzik Lake Road there. But this project will be able to connect into that sewer infrastructure that was replaced and repaired. So that's one of the things, but we're looking at that in the 22-23 year for some sewer improvements in that area. The other one is Depot Street. Councilor Boyd hit on that about the canoe launch. It kind of came to the point where you can't really get anything in there because the launch is kind of disintegrating or being washed away with some of the water and floods that we had. So we're looking at doing some repairs to that this year in this construction season. And then the next big one is a placeholder, and well, this is a little bit out of line, but the stabilization of the bank at Severance Bridge in Amherst Road there. We need to stabilize that slope because of the way it's going right now, it's washing into the river over there. So we're looking to get some stabilization done for that project. And then there's a potential, it's an existing canoe launch, but there's a potential to go across the road in a property that the conservation own to have a better area for a parking lot and a canoe launch, but that's further down the road. But this is just to stabilize this banking. So number one, we don't lose the road, and number two is that it's safe for people to put a canoe or a kayak in the Souhegan River at that portion of the road.
Excellent.
Moving a little quick through this now. We have some library projects. HVAC project. Basically, the library has individual PTACs throughout their building. They're looking to get that more constant flow, better airflow, better filtration systems now with the COVID-19 and things of that sort. So they're looking to work with a vendor for an HVAC project to see what's their best choice in keeping that place cool in the summer and warm in the winter. They got a bunch of placeholders for a sprinkler system, a sidewalk, their slate roof, their elevator. They have a bunch of, just in the out years, $100,000 placement holders for those projects to keep it on the radar screen. That all plays into this next project of a new library. They actually have met with an architect. The architect is starting to draw up plans for 3 or 4 locations. Current location in the land they own, and then another location within the center of town, the area here. And they're going to try to see how much cost is going to be. And they're looking at, once again, potentially putting the bond on for the library or library renovations. And they actually have started that process. They started it a couple of years ago with a space needs study. Now they contracted with an architect engineering firm to actually draw up designs for a library or what the library would look like at the existing location. And actually, there was also one other thing that we asked them to do is to incorporate kind of a town center feel at their current location with the John O'Leary in that area, to see if we can do kind of like a town center feel between those buildings, since we do own them. And they are connected through a parking lot. So things of that sort with the library. And then I know this one's near and dear to all your hearts on the planning board is a master plan. And that's coming due in 24 and 25. So, and then the last thing is some athletic fields development because of the need for athletic fields in this town. So we're looking at several different opportunities for that. I know I went through those things pretty quickly. A lot of placeholders, a lot of keeping it on the radar, so to speak, so that it doesn't just fall out of people's minds on some of these projects.
That makes sense. Many of these are so far out in the future that we've got plenty of time to talk about them, and any questions and answers we'd have at this point would be subject to change anyway. So I'm glad to have the brief discussion on those. But let me certainly recognize, does anybody have any questions on any of the ones that Paul kind of raced through? Nelson.
Yeah, just the one, there's one he skipped over completely, and I just wanted him to make everybody aware of it, and that is this issue of the pedestrian bridge over the Souhegan River, which is the bridge, the free bridge that we got from Portsmouth that is now closed to foot traffic. And did you want to talk to that, Paul?
Actually, Nelson, you led me into my next slide. That's the next slide I was going to talk to you guys about.
Oh, I'm looking at the sequence on the charts.
The chart, yeah. I got a little bit out of order on my slides because of the day, but yes, you're right. We got a pedestrian bridge from Portsmouth. Last year, DOT failed our bridge in the 2019 inspection. It's now on the red listed bridges. It has to be closed. Some of the issues that we had was some rusting of the girders, as you'll see, in some areas where the bridge, the walkway actually gave way that was unsafe. It was, the abutments were done in 2011, so the abutments are still good. We're looking at several different options with the pedestrian bridge. Right now, it is actually in, I believe, the state bridge age program, but it's so far out. It's in 26, 27 with the bridge age program, the bridge aid program. That we're looking at other options to see if we can get this bridge done sooner through grants or other funding, so to speak.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Other comments or questions on the pedestrian bridge or any of the ones that Paul kind of sped through? If not, then Paul, with all haste, you could lead us through the sewer ones.
Yep.
And basically, since most of these are kind of the necessary infrastructure, I don't think that there's a lot of debate about the need for them, but let's hear a little bit about them.
All right, so the first one is this relocation of the underneath the F.E. Everett Turnpike right now. We're working with, because as you know, we've talked about it, the F.E. Everett widening project. As part of the project, they're replacing the concrete box culvert that carries Natticook Brook and our sewer pipe underneath the highway. We're working with them as probably a relocation, and the gravity pipe will be eliminated and maintenance requirements associated with the pump station. So we're looking at about a $500,000 cost, and that is going to be in coordination with when they get to that section of the F.E. Everett Turnpike to relocate that our sewer pipe that comes underneath the F.E. Everett Turnpike, goes down towards our interceptor, and then comes back to our plant. So we have to work with the state to coordinate on trying to, when they do that project, especially because right now I believe we're going through one of their culverts, and that's a no-no now. You can't put a sewer pipe through a culvert anymore. They have to be on its own. So that's one thing we're looking at with this relocation, in coordination with the
Okay.
turnpike.
I think that one's been familiar to us for a while.
Yeah, actually, I believe all these projects have been. Another one is the phase 3 of the wastewater treatment plant. I won't go into too many details. It's 3A. As you know, we did this over a 2-year. We're looking to go out to bid this summer to start renovating some of the projects and some pump stations that were in it. Thornton's Ferry Pump Station and Souhegan Pump Station and our main pump station. So that's all included in the bond. And that's important for people to know, is that when we went out to the bond, we did the bond and we included these 3 pump stations. We have several other pump stations that we need to look up as well. And there's the Pennachuck Pump Station, there's the Birch Street Pump Station, there's the Heron Cove Pump Station, and the Pearson Road Pump Station. We believe that over the next 3, 5, 7 years that some of these projects are going to have to be taken up and rehabilitated. One of the reasons why is that, as we talked about, some of these costs are not as extensive as replacing the Thornton's Ferry or the other pump stations or the main pump station. Some of these are just getting it up, getting newer equipment in there, things of that sort in these pump stations, correcting some of the issues that we have, make sure the piping is good. One of the things is the Pearson Road Pump Station is a 90% Bedford. Bedford pays 90% would be paying 90% of the upgrade there. So they're just upgrades to pump stations that would come out of the operating budget or the capital reserve fund for this. Some of the other ones is a project where the 6 pump stations would communicate with wastewater via radio. The 3 remaining pump stations communicate via cellular data plans. Basically, this is tying in all, once we get all this new equipment in these pump stations, this project is to tie them all in and be 100% computers. So if something goes down, we are aware of, we don't have to drive out to these pump stations and check them on a daily basis. This is something that they can check via the computer at the wastewater treatment plant or on a smartphone if so be it. So that's one of the projects, and that project we're looking to do as in the 23-24 year with that. And then the other one is our Scada system. We're looking to upgrade our Scada system from a Windows 7 to a proposed new system, a Windows 10 or the latest version when we go ahead and do that. But we're looking to do that this year. So it'll probably be a Windows 10 system for our Scada. And our Scada system is basically the computer behind the controls of our wastewater treatment plant.
Excellent. And then the last item is, I don't know what a nutrient removal is, but it's just a placeholder. So
yeah, it's a placeholder for out years. Basically, it's Kyle, you can explain this probably better than me, but it's something that we need to do for our next permit. As designed to protect nutrient removal is required between fertilization, organics, and things of that sort. And this is out there so far, but it's something that we're going to have to look at when we go for our next permit. So that's why we want to put a placeholder in here to start thinking about the process.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Paul. That this is a placeholder. EPA and DES have both been talking about dropping the phosphorus limits in the Merrimack River substantially to the point where we would have to add new infrastructure to be able to increase our phosphorus removal from where we are today. So we're doing a whole bunch of studying of the river, both upstream and downstream of our pipe, and trying to make the case that it's not warranted, that what we're putting into the river is actually cleaner than what's in the river. But this is a placeholder in case EPA ignores our arguments and says we need to do something anyway.
Board members, do you have any comments or questions about the whole list of wastewater improvement plan items? All right. No. And with that, that concludes the presentation. Paul, do you have anything else that you want to provide?
No. I just thank you for your time. I know you have a kind of a packed agenda with some people, some other individuals and things of that sort. So if there's no further questions, I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season, and stay safe, and we'll get through this.
Same to you, Paul, and to you, Kyle. Board members, procedurally, if we're done with questions, then we would let Paul and Kyle go about their evening. We normally defer the decisions on our rankings until the end of the night so that they were not holding up the applicants who would like to have their projects heard. And so we would continue with that process. Does anyone have any further questions for Paul or Kyle? And if not, we'll let them go. All right. And then before we dive into the next item on our agenda, let's take 5 minutes and take a little bit of a break and then come back together if anybody needs to stretch your legs or do anything else. And so by my clock, it's right now 8:35. Let's take a break until 8:40, and then we will rejoin and continue with our agenda.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
see 8:39. I don't mean to deprive everybody of their full 5-minute break. Thank you for the indulgence. Now we got Neil back.
You know, we don't have any cookies, but we always had cookies before Christmas.
I got cookies. You guys didn't get any? It's like Neil's got cookies. You know, not just for this, but Kate usually makes tons of cookies and gives them to friends and takes them to work, and I take them to work on planning board. And not just because we're doing remote meetings, but nobody wants to share food anymore. Even when you take them somewhere, everybody's COVID weird. Let's reconvene our meeting. Thank you all for the participation in the presentation of the CIP. And so that item right now is tabled until the end of our meeting. We are up to item number 4. Item number 4 is Corey Knight as the applicant and Senco Realty Trust as the owner. And it is on our agenda for continued review for consideration of a site plan to construct an automobile dealership and repair facility. The parcel is located at 106 Herrick Street in the C2 General Commercial and Aquifer Conservation Districts, tax map 3D2, lot 21, case planning board 2020-26. It is continued from our November 10th, 2020 planning board meeting. Casey, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
No, not too much. Just a reminder that you already accepted this application as complete at your November 10th meeting. And the most major change from the last version of the plans that you saw is that the driveway, the proposed driveway has been moved so that it's directly across the street from the proposed driveway for the MyBox site.
So thank you for that. Who's here for the applicant?
Jeff Cavan from TF Moran's office.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
How are you? Good. How are you?
Good. Proceed with your presentation at your leisure.
So, at the previous meeting, we kind of discussed the overall site and utilities and so forth. One of the items that was discussed was the approved plan for the self-storage facility. The driveway came out here, so we took a look at how we could reconfigure. We had a driveway that was in this location, so that we were able to position it directly across from that driveway. It's someplace between 3 and 3.5%, 4% coming down. We have a low point in this location with the drainage system. This is just an overall color up because I know the presentation last time was lacking a little bit of that clarity. I think we went back and we addressed a lot of the comments from Buster O'Neill's original or initial comments. Let's see.
You there?
I'm just trying to, sorry, I'm trying to switch to the grading plan.
I didn't know if I lost audio.
Almost switched.
So this shows the grading plan. Can everybody see that?
No, mine still shows the rendering.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see.
Take your time. Technology is. Technology is our friend. Okay. That looks like
Sorry
a great
about that.
There we
All
go.
right. So again, we've relocated the driveway over on this side. You can see these items with the circles around them are the catch basins, the catch basin structures. This is the location of the existing culvert crossing the road. So our intention is to put a structure on the end of that to help control runoff. We have two low points on either side of the site. So there's a low pocket here that drains around to this, and a low pocket on this side that drains around to here. So we are capturing both of those and bringing them around. Everything within the site we're catching in these catch basins. And this is that storm tech system that I'd mentioned before. This is an underground system here that has isolator rows that perform pre-treatment, capture sediment and so forth. And then there's a filtration layer underneath that helps clean pollutants and so forth as we're infiltrating. That structure holds the lower storms and then releases larger storms. This is the outfall, and it again comes to that same discharge point because we really only have one spot where runoff leaves the site. So other than that, each one of these are there, and as we discussed last time, we'll include oil gas separating hoods in each one of these so that they can be cleaned out on a regular basis. And we've illustrated that there is no increase in runoff during any of the design storms leaving the property from here. Utilities come down from King Street, the intersection of King Street. Water, sewer, and gas come right across through here. And we have dropped a fire hydrant in this corner of the site. Our water service comes into the building here. So other than that, I don't know if you have specific questions on a site plan. We do have two waivers that we've requested. One, as you can see, with the configuration where you basically have single bay parking, around the three sides of the building, depending on how you count the interior green space, we just counted these areas here and the corners there, so we don't necessarily meet your green space, interior green space requirement. So we're asking for a waiver for it so that we don't have to create some odd islands in the middle of these parking spaces that are always difficult to snowplow around. And the second waiver was we didn't locate all trees 15-inch diameter and bigger inside the site. As you can see, we're basically reworking the entire property. There isn't much hope to preserve a tree if we did find a nice specimen tree. But for the most part, this site is all young scrub type young growth and doesn't have a lot of big trees on it to begin with. So we're requesting a waiver to not have to locate those trees. Those are two waivers we have in front of you.
Thank you, Jeff. I think that you've addressed the questions that I had from last time in the discussion so far. Do other members of the board have questions? Nelson, I see a hand up.
Yeah, Bob, I do. A couple of things that I remembered we talked about last time. One of them was we asked the applicant to to talk with Kyle Fox and others responsible for this fairly large portion of property between the road and his property on the south side, right there. Yeah, that area. We're asking you to kind of look at that and see if you could work that into your landscaping without too much difficulty. It seems like it makes a nice front lawn for you from this plan. Was anything done with that?
We'd be happy to incorporate that in. We haven't gone. I assume we would have to get permission from the select board or DPW again to work within their right of way We're happy to do that as part of the development, but we haven't closed those loops at this point.
Okay, I thought we had asked for that, and I think my impression is that DPW would have the authority to make that agreement with you. At least they seem to do it everywhere else around town.
Yeah, I think landscaping wise, I think that they'd have the authority. I think if you're building anything else in the right of way, that'd be different. But
that
yeah,
would also altogether different. Yeah, I'm talking landscape. The other thing I think we had asked for, I'm missing somehow, was some views of this from the Route 3, how it appears when it's finished. I think we're going to be looking at the rooftop of this building, and what is that going to look like?
I know that there were some elevations in my package, but I know that it'd be hard to tell what the view from the road would be, because the elevations are trying to show us the side of the building, not the view from.
Yeah, the side of the building, if you were down at that, that's the one we did see last time. And
so if you're looking at it, we basically set 10 or 12 feet below the roadway. You can see this would be the face. Again, it's a single-story building, but they are accenting this front portion. So this would be what faces Daniel Webster Highway, and this would be, the look of that building. Again, the road would be someplace, in about here. So from the roadway, you'd be looking at the top portion of this building and the emblem that they have here.
Yeah, I thought we'd be looking at air conditioning equipment and that sort of thing, rather than.
Now, anything we have like that would be, to the back and screened, you would be looking at that on the roof. You can see the back part of the building is a peaked roof.
No, I can't.
This whole back piece is peaked.
Okay.
But you wouldn't be looking at rooftop equipment.
Okay. Which is the back? The back is.
So the back of the building, this is the rear view facing.
Facing Route 3.
That's Harris Street. Yep. And so, as you come in from Daniel Webster Highway, you would, drive down and you'd be looking at this side of the building.
Yes, that's how
you first come in Herrick Street. And as you pull around further on Herrick Street, you'd see the back of the building.
Yeah. Okay.
The bottom view with the glass walls and the kind of diamond-shaped front is the DW Highway view. That bottom one right there.
That's correct.
Okay.
And it would be down the hill a little bit, but you'd still see a good chunk of the building above the level of the highway.
Okay, it does protrude above the level of the highway, so you're not. I didn't know if we'd be looking down on it, and maybe this is.
So basically, someplace in here, the road would be about, in that area.
Yeah.
And you would look at that upper section.
Yeah.
Is there going to be air conditioners and utilities on the roof, and are they going to be on the rear portion of the roof, or not at all? Or behind a parapet wall, or?
I don't believe he's gotten to the point where he has those details worked out, but if we had anything, we would hide them behind this portion of the roof or the parapet, or put them on the ground.
Okay. So to Nelson's point on that, I think that in order to be able to move forward tonight, we might add a condition that says, I don't know if it'd be a note on the plan or just a condition of approval that said that rooftop utilities are going to be screened from view from DW Highway.
It's my plan.
We agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the longevity of the roof. The less things you have mounted to a roof, the more likely it won't leak. So we're going to be doing our best to keep the rooftops clear.
No, I get it. Although your building's going to have a relatively substantial air conditioner somewhere. if it isn't on the roof, then it's going to be a lot of ground space. But one way or another, as long as it's not visible from the highway, it can be on the roof. Just screen it.
Screen it, yeah.
Yep.
That black parapet wall that you have at the front may be a great place to hide it behind. Who knows? But anyway. Nelson, other questions?
Just one more thing, a maintenance plan for this water treatment, this drainage water treatment. This is going to take some maintenance, and we'll need to have a maintenance plan to come with that will talk to how often it's inspected and what the inspections include, and removal of whatever it accumulates in there.
We put a maintenance plan on the plan set itself, next to the details. And
what page is that on?
I have to look to see if we have it on there, but the other piece to this is we will be under the requirements of the EPA to file for SWIP and so forth. And that's all part of that SWIP as well, that you basically inspect your catch basins, the sumps, and we'll have the oil gas separators, and that they be all cleaned out on an annual basis as necessary.
Nelson's going a step further. The chambered system underground is the thing that I think Nelson was specifically targeting. Yeah, those chambered systems, they work great, but they accumulate the silt and the sand and whatever, and at some frequency they've got to be cleaned out.
Yep, and we will have that on the plan and in the SWIP itself.
Okay. And records have to be kept so that you know that it's been done, right?
Yeah, I think that part of your plan would be whatever the necessary records are available. I don't think that they necessarily get collected at the department, but it would be available if somebody wanted to inspect them.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that, Jeff. Nelson, other comments?
That's all for me for now. Thank you.
Do other members of the board have comments?
Mr. Chairman, reading the script, I noticed that the 65-day statutory review expires on January the 14th, which is not very far away. And while we've got the applicant here, should we ask him for an extension?
Potentially. Let's see where our work leads us tonight. We may not need one. Bill, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, just a question for Jeff. The going back to the air conditioning units that are going to be on top of the building, is there going to be any type of exhaust system located on top of there as it relates to the repairs that are going to be done on site?
I'm sure there will be exhaust reliefs through the roof. We don't have those details with the architecturals haven't been prepared, but I'm sure there will be.
Is it possible to face your vents heading south only because you have a residential neighborhood to the north? And I'm not sure the power of the exhaust, but I think if it heads south, it deals a little bit better with how the prevailing winds occur through our town, and would send it downwind towards the more business part of town as opposed to being blown over the neighborhood that's just a little bit more north from you.
Okay, yeah, we can look at doing that.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions by board members, the business that we've got to take before us is to consider the waivers, to take some public testimony, and then to consider some final action to the extent the board is prepared to do so. Would you like to take up the waivers, or would you like to hear any public testimony that there may be, if there is any? Board members, a preference one way or another?
Let's hear from the abutters or from the concerned citizens.
Sounds fine to me. Okay, so let's open up a public hearing and hear from any abutters or interested citizens. If you are dialed in by telephone, you press *9 on the telephone to raise your hand. and that would give an indication that we could call on you for your testimony. I do not see anyone with a raised hand on this, although I'm not sure.
Bob, there's one 571.
I do see it. So
and they'll have to hit *6 to unmute themselves.
Okay. Let's unmute. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please introduce yourself by name and address, and then offer the board whatever testimony you'd like us to consider.
Okay, my name is Nathaniel Durgan. I live in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm in a butter to this property. I own the property right across the street, right across from Herrick. The lot, that's empty lot that's been recently cleared. And I also own the AMRO environmental building, just purchased that in February, which is kind of diagonally across from this site. First of all, I want to say that these guys have a great reputation. I look forward to them coming into the neighborhood, and I drive by their business every day, and they do keep a nice, well-kept business. You can tell it's well run by the outside of the building. The cars are parked in an orderly fashion. The grounds are kept up well. I think these guys will be a great addition to the town of Merrimack and to the neighborhood. The only concern I have being in a butter is there's that culvert that runs under Herrick that actually dumps onto my property. Currently, there's no runoff coming from that property, obviously because it's a wooded lot and it's a bowl-shaped lot. But my concerns is the volume. I believe the volume's not supposed to be increased between today and tomorrow based on the development. So I'm asking whether or not that's a legitimate issue, and how they're going to kind of make sure that they don't take all of the water from the 89 parking spaces and the roof and literally put it onto my property. So that's my big concern. The other concern is the water source going into the building. When I bought the Emerald building back in February, I reached out to the Merrimack, what is it called? District, the water district, the valley?
Merrimack Village District.
Yeah. Asking whether or not I could, what it would take for me to put a sprinkler system into that Emerald building to bring it up to code. And I was told that I couldn't do that because there's only a 6-inch hydrant pipe at the corner of Herrick and King Street, where I believe they're taking their water from. Now, they told me today that they could boost the pressure for these guys to get them the adequate water for a fire system. But these guys, this development would have to provide an 8-inch pipe from the corner of Herrick and King and run it all the way up to the top of Daniel Webster, which is, I would imagine, it's an extremely expensive requirement. And I just wanted to reach out to them and say that if they wanted to come across my property and pick up from Star Drive, that was the original plan for the town's master plan, was to actually connect Star Drive to that Herrick Street area so that they can do their flushing or something technical. But I just wanted to offer to these guys that if it's less expensive for them to pull from Star Drive and eliminate that 8-inch pipe that's got to run up to Daniel Webster Highway, I'd be willing to work with them on it because it looks like a nice project. But the only concern that I have is the runoff concerns that would discharge into our property. There is a culvert there now. When I bought the land, I had no idea it was there. We cleared the land over the summer, and they did discover when they cleared it the culvert, but there's no sign of any drainage that actually comes through the property. And I just want to make sure that when the development's complete, that I'm not facing a water issue. So,
Understood.
and that's it.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for the positive spin on some things. It's always refreshing as a board member to hear the concerns that people have mixed in with whatever positive things that they can add to it. We'll get the applicant to address your questions and comments in a second. I will sort of acknowledge you've hit on exactly the correct standard, that the applicant's development is not permitted to increase the runoff from the property as a result of the development. That is correct, and that is the standard. The applicant has designed their system and provided the calculations for what they think will happen, and it has been peer reviewed by the town's peer review engineer to verify the accuracy of that. And so that's how that's tested. I can't confirm or comment on whatever flow might currently be going through the culvert pipe. You've indicated that, to the best of your knowledge, there isn't any. That doesn't necessarily mean that there never has been, or that there isn't in a 500-year storm or something like that. But the applicant is not permitted to increase the flow off of the property. I'll let them kind of comment on how their drainage structures will accomplish all of that. With respect to the water connection, I think the applicant heard your invitation and can reach out to you if that seems to make some sense for them. As far as the Merrimack Village District and what they would allow you to do versus what they allow this applicant to do, we're permitted as a board to consider the feedback from the Merrimack Village District as to whether they can supply the water for these guys. Other than that, I don't have any knowledge of what they would allow you to do in the past when you were proposing it with them. But part of their project, in anything comes before the planning board, they have to have the feedback, if there is any, from the Merrimack Village District as to what's available for water.
Yeah.
And I know the applicant will have some more comments about some more responses to the questions and comments that you've had. Before we go back to the applicant, though, I want to find out if there's anybody else that has any feedback for the public. Anyone else that wishes to speak? When I'm viewing this, I'm not seeing everybody on the screen at the same time, so I got to scroll back and forth. I think there's nobody else that has a hand raised. Is that right?
I don't see anyone else, Bob.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and turn it back over to Jeff to respond to the comments that we heard from the abutter.
So soils are really nice on the property as far as infiltration capabilities. So that's what we're doing. We're capturing the runoff in our catch basins, bringing it over to the StormTech system. The chambers provide some storage, but the primary discharge is through infiltration. So we are mimicking the existing conditions as much as possible by infiltrating the majority of the runoff. We do have, based on calculations, that there would be, for significant storm events, there would be some water that gets to this culvert and leaves the site. But we are matching, pre to post conditions and not increasing runoff under the neighbor's land.
Thanks, Jeff. So the StormTech system is an underground system of tanks or chambers that hold the water and then infiltrate it into the ground right underneath your parking lot where it was going before, or at least as close to where it was going before as you can get. Is that right?
Yep, correct.
And Fuss and O'Neill, our peer review engineers. Casey, we've gotten our report back from them. Did they confirm the drainage calculations that the applicant has put forward?
I can't confirm that. I don't have that right in front of me, but we do have it simply in our requirements that in our recommended conditions that the applicant needs to meet any comments from Fuss and O'Neill as a blanket statement.
Thank you, Casey. Board members, any general questions for the applicant? And if not, then the two waivers that we are asked to take up relate to the amount of green space that's inside the property, inside the parking lot. The applicant feels that they don't meet the required standard for the amount of landscaped space within the parking lot. And the applicant has also not identified 15-inch trees on the existing conditions plan based on the idea that essentially whatever is on the site is going to be removed as a part of the development. And so it doesn't really matter whether there's existing 15-inch trees. Does the board have any discussion about the waiver requirements or waiver requests? If not, what's the will of the board with respect to the requested waivers?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the Merrimack Planning Board waive the interior landscape design standards under the applicable section of 3.11.1.1.II, and furthermore, that a waiver be granted under section 412C 18, Roman numeral 8, which requires noting trees greater than 15 inches diameter on the existing condition plans, under the guise that strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit or the intent of the regulations.
Thank you, Councilor Boyd, for the motion to grant both waivers. Is there a second?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Alistair seconds the motion. If there's no other discussion, then let's go to a vote. Alistair, how do you vote?
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Neil Anketel, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Bill Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. That's 5-0-0 to grant both waivers. So with that in mind, it's appropriate to have either general discussion or potential action regarding the final disposition of this proposal. Is there discussion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, based on the testimony from the abutter, I think some of my fears have been allayed, so I'm happy to make a recommendation. We grant conditional final approval for this project based on the memo submitted by Robert Price on December the 11th, 2020.
Seconded.
Gentlemen, Alistair and Councilor Boyd, does your motion include the addition of the maintenance plan for the storm tech system and some of the other things discussed tonight?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Casey, do you have a clear record of what those additions tonight are? The storm tech maintenance plan is one of them. And consulting with DPW about potentially landscaping the wide section of the right-of-way is another. That the air conditioning units, if they're on the roof, will be screened from view from the vantage point of DW Highway. Gentlemen, did I miss any of the expansions or additions here tonight?
So something about the exhaust pipes on the roof.
Yes.
Sorry.
The ventilation from the repair area, the auto repair area, would be directed away from the residential area, which would tend to be towards the south.
Thank you.
Is there any others? Okay, so gentlemen, Alistair and Bill, your motion included all of those.
Yes, of course, Mr. Chairman.
That's correct, and I appreciate the clarity on the exhaust going south. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. If there's no further discussion, then let's go to a vote. Neil Anketel, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Alistair Milnes, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Bill Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. That's 5-0-0 for conditional final approval. Thank you guys very much. Welcome to town. I look forward to you being here. And it sounds like everybody agrees that you'll be a great addition to the community. That you're a good,
Thank you very much.
Good citizen of the community. So, all right. Item 5 on our agenda is Eric and Jennifer Gould as the applicant and owners, and this is review for consideration of a conditional use permit to construct a detached accessory dwelling unit above an existing detached garage. The parcel is located at 12 Springfield Circle in the R1 Residential by Map District and Aquifer Conservation District. The property is tax map 4A lot 471. Casey, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
Not too much, just that this is an accessory dwelling unit that's a proposal that's before the board because this is a detached unit. They were previously before the zoning board because their lot does not meet the acreage requirement to normally have a detached accessory dwelling unit. They did receive that variance, I believe, let's see, that was in October. So they're before the board tonight to get their conditional use permit.
Thank you, Casey. I think the other additional interesting bit to this is that the ADU is essentially going to be the second floor of a garage building that already exists.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. and Mrs. Gould, please introduce yourself for the record. Even though your address is now and your name is already on the record, name and address, and then tell us about what you're proposing.
I'm Jen Gould. I live at 12 Springfield Circle.
I'm Eric Gould. I live at 12 Springfield Circle.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Got more family members there too, huh?
No, this is my mom.
Hi, Mom.
I'm in Danis, Jen's mom.
Excellent. Okay. So tell us what you're proposing and let the board ask any questions that they may have of you.
So basically, we have a detached garage in our backyard. We want to put a in-law apartment for my mom who's elderly, who needs more care from me or from us. Safety reasons, she needs to be closer, and I can't put her into a nursing home, especially due to COVID.
Yeah, let's don't do that. Is this going to add to the height of your garage, or is the space already in here? It just needs to be finished.
It just needs to be finished.
Excellent. Plumbing is already in there. I assume electric has been in there, but plumbing is already in the garage area.
Negative. There's a water line brought out to the garage, but we do not. And we have a drain line coming to the house for future use bathroom that we never completed. We built the thing in 2017, and then we had a septic design drawn up, and we submitted it to the town for you guys. So initially we would like to dump into the house and put a sewer ejector in until that fails for us.
Okay. And then you've got a design plan for a replacement septic system should you need one.
We haven't had that
Is any part of your neighborhood close to being on town water and sewer, or is it all
on town water?
Okay, just like me, town water, not sewer.
Right.
Okay. I can't imagine any questions about traffic or any of the parking or any of those things. It looks like you had tons of space on your property for all of those things.
Yep, and then we'll be parking in one of the garages underneath her.
I gotcha. I don't have any questions at all. I think it's a pretty simple proposal. Other members of the board, do you have any comments or questions on this?
Mr. Chairman, we went over this, I think, when they came in for a preliminary or something, so I feel fairly familiar with this project. I have no issues.
I guess I didn't remember that whenever that happened, because, but it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. I don't remember everything. Okay, so do we have to accept this application as complete? No, we don't.
Yeah, no, that does not apply.
Okay. So let's find out if there's any abutters or interested citizens who wish to weigh in. If you are on the phone, you press *9 to raise your hand if you wish to weigh in. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, if you don't have any questions or discussion, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
Move approval, Mr. Chairman, as presented.
It's motion by Councilor Boyd. Is there a second? Neil Ankatel's got a hand up for a second.
I'll second.
Subject to all the conditions in the memo, I assume. There's not very many. If there's no further discussion, Neil, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Alistair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Bill Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. 5-0-0 for final approval of your conditional use permit, subject to the conditions in the staff memo. Thank you for your patience in waiting out a long discussion for just a 5-minute little presentation, but sometimes that's the way the agenda falls for us. I hope some of it was at least mildly interesting.
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not. Thank you, and you're all set. You'll get a letter from the town with all of the details that you have to follow, but you're all done with us for the day.
All right. Thank you so much.
Best of luck and continued health to Jen's mom.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Absolutely.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Item 6 on our agenda is the Merrimack Village District, who is going to do an informational presentation regarding the PFAS treatment for well number 2. Casey, do you have any introduction, or I've got a little bit of an introduction? Do you have anything that you want to add, or?
Nope, I do not.
Okay, so my little bit of introduction is simply to note for the board what it is, what's the business that's before us, what are we doing, and to set this up, when there is a site plan or development construction that is a government use on government property, the planning board doesn't have any authority to approve or disapprove or qualify the review of that. But we do have the opportunity to have the governmental use or the agency that's undertaking it to do one of two things to us. We could have them do a site plan presentation as they normally would, and we would just take it for informational purposes. Or we could have them do what we're doing here tonight, which is simply a presentation. And this is largely because, in this case, before us, because it is an issue of such great public interest with the condition of our wells and the situation with PFAS, that even though we could sort of receive this information in writing or read about it in the paper, this is an opportunity for the board to hear the presentation, as well as for the public to hear the presentation about what is going to go on with this PFAS treatment that's going to be done to well number 2. That's my introduction. That's why we're here. We've got no authority to vote. It's to listen and ask questions. With that, who's here from the Village District? Is that Peter? Is that you?
Yes, that's me. Yep.
All right. Let me give you the floor.
Right, my name is Peter Pitsis. I work for Underwood Engineers, and we are the engineers for the Merrimack Village District. Just to give you just a quick rundown, we ended up coming before the board a few years ago for the treatment plant over for wells 4 and 5, which is on Front Street. And that facility went under construction in the summer of 19, and it was substantially complete in treating water in October of 2020. So that one is online right now. We did not come in front of the board for the treatment plant addition on well 7 and 8 because that is over in Hollis, so it's out of your jurisdiction. But just to let you know that the design of that was completed, and construction of that that started this summer, July of 2020, and probably going to be online, at least scheduled August, September of 2021. So now we're on to the last of the 3 treatment plants, and this treatment plant is going to be treating the water from well number 2, and with all hopes with a new well number 9 that is going to be located in somewhat close proximity to well number 2. So that will be the 3rd treatment plant. So I do have, I can share my screen, and I have a site plan, a few of our drawings, picture. This treatment plan is going to look very similar to the treatment plan at 4 and 5. So I do have a picture of the treatment plan at 4 and 5, so you can kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah, go ahead, share your screen.
Yeah, so I want to share my screen.
And also, you caught my attention with the mention of a new well number 9 that was not previously on my radar screen. So I'm glad to hear about that as well.
Yeah,
so there is to know about that.
Yeah, so just give a little information on that one. Well number 3 that the district has does have a lot of iron and manganese in it, and it also has elevated sodium and chloride levels, so that the water is getting very difficult to treat there. So then they're looking at possibly drilling this new well number 9, which is going to be, well number 3, I don't know if you know where it's located, but it's somewhat near Dunkin' Donuts on Continental Boulevard. So if you pull off a Continental Boulevard, you take an immediate right down there to go to Dunkin' Donuts. If you took the left and go down the gravel road, that's where well 3 is. So that's getting a lot of sodium and chlorides from Continental Boulevard, Industrial Drive, and out in the industrial park area there. And then it also has elevated iron and manganese from the wetlands area. So we're looking at going down behind the Merrimack Village District Maintenance Shed, which is off of Continental Boulevard, and then on the west side of Natticook Brook. And that's where we're looking to put well number 9. So we're hoping that it's going to be in a better area for.
What's the expected production for that well number 9?
The goal is to have the total for well number 2 and well number 9 to be 2,000 gallons per minute.
So that's pretty big capacity.
Yep.
How will that impact us all as we have our summer water restrictions and limitations and all of that? Is that going to provide any relief from that, or is that not necessarily going to get us that far?
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to get you that far. So the problem with that, and the district can expand more on that. But the problem is when people water in the summer, the yards watering, that is the thing that really increases the daily consumption, and that was forcing the issue. Last summer, it was sort of compounded. For one, that well 4 and 5 treatment plant was still offline, so you did not have the capacities of those wells because those were shut down in 2016 due to very high PFAS. So the other wells in town do have PFAS, but not as high of a level, and the district is still running those. So as we turn on these new plants, it's going to be the same capacity water, but just better quality water.
I gotcha.
So when we put on 4 and 5, it actually added capacity to the system. So this fall we added capacity. The other thing that was caused the problems this past spring was a delivery problem from the Pennachuck waterworks system. So they do have a connection there, and there was an issue with the delivery from Pennachuck into the Merrimack system that limited how much the district could pull out of there, so that it added to the deficiencies from that we were not getting from well 4 or 5. So the total of that, and the high usage for the sprinkler, yard sprinklering, that really caused the problem. So.
Right. So it's kind of an annual thing for us. So, I mean, it may have been worse this year because of all of the things going on, but annually we're always with the summer odd even watering and limitations and things. And it sounds like, although we won't necessarily forever say goodbye to those, we've at least improved over the supply that we had in the spring this year.
Yes. And the district is continuing to look at, what else can they do to add supply to that, and so they're continuing to work on that with the goal of adding some more. So the odd even actually does work nicely, I believe, with because if you're doing any kind of watering of your lawn, if you're just going to water it just for a short amount of time, and you're really just watering the upper portion of the soil, and you're better off watering it every other day for a longer period of time, because you'll get a little bit more of the water will penetrate into the ground more, and therefore your roots will be growing down there. If you're only watering and getting up into the top inch of the soil, well, that's where your roots are going to be. And then if as the roots are higher, then they're more susceptible to burning from the sun. So you're better off having, sort of a longer, watering less frequently. And I think you get a better lawn because your roots will get down deeper. So, and it's, the watering during the day is very inefficient because a lot of it evaporates, and it also, causes, the lawn to burn in the sun. So watering during, when you see people watering in the middle of the day and they think they're helping their lawn out, they're really not. So, doing it off peak hours is really, the best thing to do anyways, no matter what. So
Understood.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll continue to get some capacity, and I agree, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll ever make sense to water during the day, but more capacity so that we're not limited to these. I'm one of the lucky odd numbered houses, so we get 7 extra days of watering with the odd houses because of the way months end in 31 days.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry for distracting with that. I'm glad that we're increasing our capacity. Let's go back to PFAS though.
Yeah, sorry to get sidetracked on that one.
That was me. I did it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the site. So you got you got Berry Lane here. I gotta move you guys. There you go. So you got Berry Lane here, and you got Stevens Ave here. So then, if you continue down Berry Lane, you're going to get to Amherst Street. Okay. So so right now, this is the access road coming down into here, going down into, and well number 2 is right there. Okay. So that's sort of the existing condition sheet. We are going to be, so actually I'll stay on this one. So as you come down and here's well number 2, we have to finalize our topo out here, but we ended up taking a GPS, and this is a sort of a woods road that goes out, and well number 9 is going to be over here. Okay. So if anybody's ever been out there, there's sort of a little woods road going out there. Just follow it out, and that's where well number 9 is. So this is we're looking at the northerly direction here. So we're sort of south, west of well number 2. Okay.
Okay.
And if you're at well number 9 here, Natticook Brook is probably about down over in here. And then on the other side of that is the MBD maintenance building. Okay. So just to give you an idea of where everything is there.
Thank you.
This is sort of this is our proposed site plan for the area. So right now, this whole area is all wooded except for this road going through. So what we're planning on doing is constructing our treatment plant building, which is going to be here, constructing an infiltration basin that's going to be over here, and a septic system over here. So this infiltration basin looks like it's like super deep, but these are 1-foot contours, so it's actually only 9 feet deep. So it's not as bad as it really looks if you're used to looking at 2-foot contours. So just some of the reasoning for what we have done. Right here, you can see this arc here, and that's a 400-foot radius, and that's the state's protective radius for your well. So we wanted to get the infiltration basin outside of that, for one thing. We wanted to get the treatment plant, anything else we had outside of that, septic system outside of that. And so we came down the natural slope of the land. I'll look at it this way. Might be a little easier to see. Treatment plant's going to be here, infiltration basin here, and the septic here. So you can see that the top here is sort of a pretty flat, and it starts to get a little bit steeper, and then very steep down to a brook here. And you can see it starting to go. There's a little bit of a hole in here. So you got fairly steep down there. This is sort of marginally steep this way. So we're trying to stay on top of that plateau-ish area. So we got the treatment plant over here. We really can't get, slide it too much over this way, because then we're going to start trying to catch the slope going down in this direction. So we have the treatment plant there. We tried to put the infiltration basin as far away from that as possible. So in case we needed to do any kind of addition onto this treatment plant or put any other kind of building, we have a lot of room right in the middle here where we can do something without really having too much of a problem. And we also wanted to tuck the septic system, away from this area too, just to, get that, sort of out of the way. And then if sewer ended up being constructed on Berry Lane, at least we have our sewer line running in this direction, that it would be very easy to run down and connect up to the new sewer system once it came.
So Peter, let me ask some dumb questions?
Yeah, no.
So you got septic system and sewer line. Is there facilities or maintenance buildings that are producing septic discharge, or is that for the treatment, PFAS treatment system itself uses a septic system, or?
Yeah, no, it's actually just for a bathroom that's in the facility.
Okay, makes sense.
It's for the bathroom in the facility, and then there's a sink in the control room that goes there. So it's a very minimal flow going out to that septic system.
All right, same question with respect to the infiltration basin. It seems like a very small development for such a large infiltration basin.
Yes, so what we have, so the treatment for PFAS is granular activated carbon. So inside this treatment plant, we're going to have 4 12-foot diameter vessels that are 26 feet tall. And then they're going to be filled probably roughly 2/3 with granular activated carbon. So once you put the new carbon in there, you need to the process is to wet it out. So the carbon comes in dry in a tanker truck, because it, if you had it all wet, it would just be too heavy for the road. So it comes in dry. You have to fill the tanker truck up, any void space with water, and then you actually pump that slurry into your vessels. Okay, so then some of the carbon will actually float, because the small air or pore space in there, the air needs to come out of that. So at first, some of that will actually be floating, and then as the water works its way into the pores, then it will settle down. But also during transport and manufacturing, there's some fines that are created with that, and those fines need to be backwashed out. So once you put you slurry the new carbon in there into each one of the vessels, then you have to let it sit for 24 hours, and then you need to backwash it to clean it out, and to get any of the carbon, the floatables that will come out of that too. And then that gets pumped out into the infiltration basin. And then once that's done for a while, then we run filter to waste, because the water will be slightly discolored. And then that will be also shipped out to the infiltration basin. So the carbon is going to be changed out approximately each vessel will be done probably once a year. So the 4 vessels are going to be in 2 trains that are parallel to each other. So we would probably be changing out, the first vessel on each train, in 1 year, and then the following year we would probably be changing out the other ones. So the infiltration basin is sized really for 2 of those vessels to be backwashed and run filter to waste once a year. So that basin will only be used once a year. Unlike other kinds of treatment, where like iron and manganese treatment, where you actually have vessels that you oxidize the iron and manganese, and the vessel takes that out in the upper layers, and then you backwash the vessel and you push out the contaminant and put it out into lagoons. That's more of an iron and manganese treatment, and you do that every 5 to 7 days or so. This one you only do once a year. So that infiltration basin needs to be sized big enough to hold that volume, but we're only going to be using it once a year.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on the infiltration basin, so we know from the 4-5 plan, it roughly took 2 days for the infiltration basin to drain. So because we have a house right here, and there's a whole neighborhood over here, and this is Bryce Drive, I believe it is. So we're putting a fenced-in area around this infiltration basin, just so the pond does not attract kids going into it and stuff. And then once you do backwash it in there, that granular activated carbon is like a charcoal. So when you do get it on you, your hands do get, dark. So we don't want any kids going in there playing in it and then walking into the house and dragging it into there, getting it all over the carpet inside the home. So,
Other than being dirty, though, it's a safe product.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Awesome.
Won't that product have PFAS in it? If this filter is removing PFAS from the water.
They're only doing this when the filter medium is brand new.
Exactly.
Oh, you don't keep doing it. Okay.
No, you don't do it. So once the carbon has absorbed, the PFAS, then it is actually slurried back out of the vessels. It is taken to a facility and it is incinerated, and then that material is actually brought back after it is incinerated, and then put back into the vessel again. So
they burn the PFAS out of the carbon and then reuse the carbon. That's awesome.
Exactly what it is, yeah.
But if you incinerate it, won't you burn the carbon?
You do lose some of your carbon, so you have to have some makeup carbon every time you do that. So it all depends on each carbon is different, and is a strength of the particles of the carbon, and so you'll lose between 10 and 20%, I believe, is the number. Each time you do that, so you do have to make up. So there'll be some virgin carbon that comes in with each load. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Peter. What else?
Yeah. And then on this site here, so you can. I'm just going to draw along the paved area. So that's going to be like this, coming down around here and up around, and then here's the treatment building right in here. So we have to get a tanker truck being able to drive around this facility. That's why it's a fairly large paved area around there.
Good, gotcha.
So that's that. The area up here is fairly flat, but it is a fairly steep road going down to the treatment plant. So I know we are talking about grades with the well 4-5 project. So this is coming off. This point here is coming off of Berry Lane, so it's going to be fairly flat in here. I'm going to zoom in there a little bit. So we're going to be at like 1.5%, in along the area. Building's going to be roughly in this area here, and then it's going to slope off and go down the existing grade down to the well 2 building, which is down here. And that whole hill is paved. That shaded area is the paved portion of the road. So, okay. So we have that. And then, so that's the site. The building will look very similar to this. So we'll have an upper portion here where the vessels will be located.
The screen didn't change. We're still looking at the.
Oh, you are graphic. Okay. Yep. Okay. Then. Okay, let me see how I'm doing this.
You might have to stop sharing one and then start sharing the other.
Yeah. You are sharing. Stop sharing. Okay, there we go. And share screen again. Are you seeing that now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now I gotta get my zoom button. So you have this upper portion of the building. This is where the vessels are located. Mm-hmm. And then you have the lower portion of the building where your chemical feed is. You have your bathroom. You have the workroom, and you have mechanical and electrical room, all in the lower portion of the room. So this building will be set up similar to, so if you're looking at the site going in the right direction is actually going to be, the right side of the gable end will be facing Berry Lane as you come in. So that's the portion you'll be seeing.
Okay.
And so the building's going to look very similar. Instead of doing 3 windows up high, we're going to do 2 larger windows. because it helps out with, it's a structural issue because you need to have shear walls in your design. So a shear wall needs to go from the top of the wall down to the bottom. And with all these windows, it cuts off those areas. So it makes it tougher to fit a shear wall in. So that's why we're kind of going with 2 windows, but it will look very similar to that.
All right. Is that the building for the 7 and 8 well?
Nope, that's 4-5. That's that's up one down on Front Street.
Okay.
Yeah, the 7 and 8 building, that was an iron and manganese plant already, so it already had somewhat of a building like this without this lower portion on it. And then it was a lot longer. And then what we did just added on to it. So it's a very long, tall building. So
that's the one in Hollis.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I got
just off of 101A, kind of behind the old, I always called it the old apple pie place.
Yeah, PC Connection and all that.
PC Connection, yeah. If everybody remembers the apple pie place.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Okay, what else?
So that's kind of it. So we're looking at working just for schedule wise where we submitted the 90% design to the district and we have comments back from them, and now we're proceeding towards 100% design, which we plan on submitting the 1st of January, and then we're going to be out to bid at the end of January, bid opening end of February, and hopefully we're going to be breaking ground in April. So
excellent. Thank you for the presentation, Peter.
Yeah.
Board members, do you have any questions? Nelson.
Question. How will this look from there's residences already on Berry Lane, right?
Yeah.
Can they see this, actually see it? What will it look like from their point of view?
Yeah, so let me show you a picture of the, let me get back to my PDFs. Where are my PDFs? There we go. Are you seeing that now?
Yep.
Okay. So these are the PDFs of the building. The architect came up with a little different design on the side, but the district wants to stay with just the horizontal clapboards going up. But this is what it's going to look like besides that. So they'll be looking at this view here, your bottom left. The one thing that we are going to be doing on this right now on the side here, the gable end, the overhang is only shown at about 8 inches, and we're actually, extending that out to 24 inches, and that's what we had on the 4-5 plan. So that's the only thing different looking into 4-5. The one thing that this design does have is outside all the doors, it does have this little roof. Can you see the little roof sticking out?
Yeah.
So it's nice for, for keeping water off of that, but I also think it adds a nice aesthetic to the building too. So
yeah,
that'll look a little bit nicer. So
yeah, I think that's what people out there will be interested in or upset about.
Yeah. And then just to let you know, over in so I'll go back to the existing site plan. Oh, well, I don't have the existing site plan up. I just zoomed out of it. But over in here, this person here,
yeah,
they ended up doing some clearing, and you can actually see this is the existing clearing line right here that I'm drawing on. So they actually, by accident, when they were doing some clearing, cleared onto the district's property. So these people, there's really going to be no shade between them and the building because they cleared everything in between there.
Yeah.
We were, if they did not do that, we have an area in here that we could have left some shade.
Yeah.
But they ended up taking it out. So they'll be looking right at the building. This person right here at the corner of Stevens, we are going to be trying to leave some shade in here, and there is some lower growth stuff in there, so that will help shade them from seeing it.
Excellent.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? No.
No.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for the patience. Oh, wait, Bill, you got a comment?
Bryce Drive, is there going to be a buffer for the two houses that are on Bryce Drive that you abut?
No, because they cleared all the they cleared everything. They went on to district property and cleared any trees that we could have left for buffer.
Oh, that house you're pointing to is one of the ones on Bryce Drive?
Yeah.
So the house itself, the homeowner themselves have already cleared the screening and onto your property and cleared some of your trees.
Yeah, they went on to they went onto the property and they actually buried stumps on the district property too. So we had them dig those up and they removed those out of there. So so it was yeah, so there's no way to and then actually on that side there are a lot of tall pines with very little undergrowth. So you know, so they are going to see it, but you know, the district has been in contact with them, you know, because of the clearing and because of the buried stumps and all that kind of stuff, and they explained the project to them. And that one homeowner that's the closest to it, he's aware of everything and he does not have any issues. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, Peter, I really appreciate what Underwood has done since this community has been exposed to PFAS for the last couple of years, and some of the designs that you've done with the wells, helping MBD. I sit on the Drinking Water and Groundwater Advisory Commission up at Concord.
Okay, yeah.
And I know you folks were really helpful preparing not just the application for the wells, but also for the Turkey Hill Road.
The Booster Pump Station, yeah.
Pump station.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you folks for the leadership that you've given to MBD and allowing them to strategically think and position this community down the road as it relates to providing clean, potable drinking water. So thank you for the work that you've done. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are on the leading edge of what's happening in the state because right now there's a plant being constructed over in Portsmouth, and then you got the 3 plants that are being done in Merrimack, and then we're also doing another one over in Dover for there. And those are the 5 treatment plants right now that are in the state for PFAS. So you are right on.
I think what we're doing is going to create a new paradigm for a lot of other, not just municipalities, but other quote unquote village districts in New Hampshire to begin thinking about, you know, when they go up for, you know, fixing their treatment plants or their, you know, their water systems, they can begin to think how they want to approach it and start budgeting for it. And they can, like you said, Portsmouth, Dover, Merrimack, they can look to us and see what we've done. So I think, you know, nothing wrong with being the leader on this issue. Absolutely.
No. Yeah, I think the district will have a lot of people coming down to look at their facilities, you know, as other communities start to gear up and start to do something with them, with their own systems. So.
But seriously, Peter, thank you again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for coming in.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, board members. Let's jump back on our agenda to the capital improvement plan and do our voting and ranking on the recommendations related to it. You should all have in your package an indication or a printout of the review criteria with the various levels of recommendations that we would put on a project, from urgent through necessary, desirable, deferrable, premature, and inconsistent, 1 through 6. And it is our task to assign these various levels to the items in the capital improvement program.
Mr. Chairman, does everybody have a copy of the spreadsheet that reads Schedule 2 on top?
I do. Does everybody else have one? Yes, I see nodding heads. Yes.
Okay, working off of that, you have a column. You have a number column.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the numbers that are in the general fund, and then you have the wastewater, which is considered the sewer fund.
Yep.
So specifically focusing on the column that reads general fund, I would recommend that number 14 and number 16 be considered desirable. Number 20 be considered deferred. Number 28 be considered desirable. And all the other lines be considered necessary.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion or some discussion that we'd like to have? I mean, I'll second it just for the purposes of discussion. And then Nelson or Alistair or Neil, do you have comments on any of the specific line items?
Well, I didn't quite get all the recommendations that Bill.
Okay.
You want me to start over?
I got the first couple, but
let's do them in numerical order. I think I wrote them down. So lines 1 through 13 on the page would all be class 2 necessary. The line 14 would be desirable. 15 necessary. 16 desirable. 17, 18, 19 necessary. 20 deferrable. 21 through 27 necessary. 28 desirable. Did I get those right?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
What was the last thing you said? I'm trying to keep up here. The 21 through 28 is
21 through 27, all of the library ones in the Community Development Master Plan are necessary. 28, the Parks and Recs playing fields is desirable, which is the third level. And the only question or comment is whether any of the ones that are at least framed in the 21-22 should be considered urgent. Usually those tend to be the bridge replacements and those kinds of things, but then again, they're off in the future based on funding. And so it's hard to put something as urgent and say it's fine to put it in the budget 6 years from now.
Yeah.
The only other one that I would potentially consider to be to merit discussion about an urgent recommendation is the safety complex, just because of the nature of a safety complex. But then again, necessary certainly fits its plan as well. So
yeah.
Anyway,
we just do that one more time. 1 through 12 are all necessary. Is that
1
right?
through 13
1 through 13
are necessary.
are all necessary. Okay.
14 is desirable. 15 necessary. 16 desirable.
14 was desirable. 14
in Bill's motion, 14 and 16 are desirable. 15 necessary. 17, 18, 19 necessary. 20 deferrable. 21 through 27 necessary. 28 desirable. So all of the lines except 4 are necessary.
Yeah, and the sidewalks you've got as desirable.
That's incorrect.
The tap improvement ones, number 16, you said was desirable.
Correct.
But the regular 200,000 a year sidewalks are up higher, and those are listed as necessary. The numbers, line number 6.
Correct.
Okay. So this one that's number 16, why is it only desirable? I mean,
because it's pending the award of a grant, Nelson.
Wow. But I was looking at 21-22 here. What is this? 195,000. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong line.
I think you're looking at the right row. But I think it is fair when you're looking at things that are grant funded, and I know that at least the next year's grant must be one that we've already received if we're considering putting it in the budget for the coming year. But
and to be honest with you, we don't know what we're going to get from Concord, because once 2021 takes effect, and once the House gets their stuff in order and they start dealing with the governor's budget, things are gonna be very different. I don't mean to be naysayer or sound like Eeyore, okay? Okay, or Glum from Gulliver's Travels. Now I'm really dating myself, but my sense is that as we emerge, I think Governor Sununu is going to be prudent. I think the budget's going to be slightly more austere, and I think that some of the monies that we've seen that we've utilized through the grant program or like the bridge program, the money will be there. I don't think it's going to be as plentiful as it has been in the past. And I think that's
trying to straighten out what you're proposing here. Back on 14, that was desirable, right? That's correct. The desirable one. Then 15 is also desirable, right?
No, 15 is necessary because we're talking about stabilizing a slope.
15 is also already in the current year's plan, so it doesn't even, typically we don't rank those at all.
Yeah, okay, I had a D on that one. Okay, then the sidewalk improvements, that for next year, you're saying it's desirable. Which ones were those? I've forgotten which sidewalks he was talking about here. It looks like every other year there's...
Yeah, they're talking about either applying for grants or at least in the first instance, it may be one that's already been approved. But the future ones, 23, 24, and 25, 26, as an ongoing matter, applying for them as opportunities arise.
Yeah.
And pursuing those for various parts of things.
Okay, so where's the one where we're putting in $200,000 a year? That's
line 6.
Line 6. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm okay with that. I thought you were getting my sidewalks.
Nah. And then there's still library sidewalks in number 23 as well.
Yeah, that's because they're crumbling apart.
Yeah, but it's also a chance to get them a little bit further away from the travel lane to the extent it can squeeze in with the building and stuff and make it better design. But anyway, that one's way off in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to discussion, if people want to tweak these choices, I mean, now's a chance to say, I think that line X ought to be something different. And if not, then let's vote on this thing and move on to sewers.
Well, I'm ready to move to sewers. I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or questions about these suggestions? So Bill moved it. I second it. Neil, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Alistair, how do you vote?
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Bill Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. I would add in there that we typically have added in the letter, the body of the letter that we send to the council, some recommendation to encourage sidewalks. And I think that we ought to thank them for the actions on sidewalks in our letter this year. Are there any other narrative comments that people would like to make or suggest that we make in the body of the letter that conveys our rankings? If not, then let's take up. Bill, do you have a suggestion on the wastewater series?
As it relates to the 9 line items for wastewater, they are all necessary, Mr. Chairman.
And I agree with you, Mr. Boyd.
So there's a motion by Mr. Boyd, a second by Mr. Milnes to rank all 9 wastewaters as necessary. I don't have any disagreement with that at all. Does anybody else have any comments or discussion? All right. Neil Anketel, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Alistair?
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well, 5-0-0 for that. Does that dispense with all of the action on the capital improvement plan? Are we done with that? I think we are. Okay, then, I'm sorry, Nelson, what do you got?
Good job, Bill.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for moving that along. We're up to discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern. There are a couple that the Community Development Department has forwarded to me related to maintenance bonds and such. Let me grab those real quick. Let's see. The first relates to the Richard Prince subdivision, which is the one off of Old Blood Road. This is a recommendation related to reducing a performance bond and establishing the maintenance bond for the road. Summarizing that, I've got a memo from Don Tuamala describing the final inspection of Old Blood Road and culminating in the recommendation that we reduce the performance bond of $60,989. It should be released, and a maintenance bond in the amount of $11,535, which is 10% of the original projected bond amount, should be established for the Old Blood Road improvements for that.
And Bob, I just need to interrupt you. There is a third component to what Don is asking the board to do, and that is also to accept the improvements to Old Blood Road. That is outlined in your cheat sheet if you need to look at that.
Thank you as well. Yes, that is also in Don's memo. I glossed past that.
It's okay.
But the Department of Public Works is suggesting that the planning board would recommend acceptance of Old Blood Road as a town road to the town council. So 3 actions: recommend acceptance, recommend releasing the performance bond, recommend establishing the maintenance bond in the amounts described in this memo. Does anyone require more details or discussion on that? If not, is there a motion?
Wish I had a chance to drive over it one time.
I haven't been over it yet either. I even kind of lost track of it.
They were recommending.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Bill Boyd moves all 3 items. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If there's no discussion, Neil Anketel, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Alistair.
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Boyd.
Boyd votes aye.
Mr. Disco.
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. All right, so that approves that item. The other one is our Neighbor Works. And where is the message for that one? That is, Neighbor Works is that townhouse complex on the east side of Daniel Webster Highway. This is a memo from Dawn. A final inspection of the right-of-way improvements was performed by Department of Public Works. As-built plans dated September 23rd were reviewed. The recommendation culminating from that is that the performance bond of $91,545.43 should be released, and replace the bond with a maintenance bond in the amount of $9,154.54, which is 10% of the original amount, to be in place for 2 years.
Move approval.
Moved by Councilor Boyd for approval. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll be happy to second it, Mr. Chairman.
Alistair seconds it. Discussion? Neil Anketel, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Alistair.
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Boyd.
Boyd votes aye.
Mr. Disco.
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. Those were the required other items of concern that the department had put before us. Does anyone have any other items of concern they'd like to raise, noting that it's 10 p.m.? Seeing none, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of December 1st, 2020. What's the will of the board?
I motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Move to approve as presented. Is there a second?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
All right. Is there discussion?
I got a question.
Sure.
On page 3.
Wait a minute. Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Page 3.
Yep.
Line 47.
Yep.
The board voted 3-2 by roll call vote to grant conditional final approval. Now, included in the final approval was the sidewalks. But I thought we voted for the sidewalks prior to final approval, because there's no way in heck I would have voted against final approval. I know I voted against the sidewalks. So I question that component because I think there's a section missing. You're missing the narrative as it relates to the sidewalks, and then you're missing the actual vote total on actual conditional final approval.
So here's what my memory is, and our procedure has changed slightly over what it had historically been. Up until we had rewritten our site plan regulations, sidewalks might be required unless we waived them. And then that dynamic has been reversed now, where sidewalks are required when the board determines that they're required. And so this final approval motion would have been approval with the requirement of a sidewalk rather than two-step vote with the waiver. That might have been why you voted no on the thing, because you wanted it to come back later for a vote without the sidewalk.
That's exactly my recollection, Mr. Chairman.
So is it possible to table the minutes so that we can?
Yes, it is.
Of course we can.
I had picked up on this same thing. And I think what it should say, the board voted 3-2-0 by roll call vote to grant conditional final approval on a motion by seconded by conditional final approval, including a sidewalk is what I want to say in there after that conditional final approval. The final approval included the requirement for a sidewalk. And there's no separate motion on it, so it has to be in this motion. And that's why Bill Boyd voted against it. And I don't know about Will, but I know that...
So I certainly think that edit could be in order, and if it's still a desire to table it, we can do that as well. But
And the other concern is that, I didn't talk ad nauseum about it, but I did make several points against the sidewalk that wasn't included in the minutes as well. So that's
okay. That's between you and them. I just want to get the final vote right. Yeah.
So
included the sidewalk.
If there's some additional discussion about sidewalks that should be reflected in the minutes, then let's table these and ask the Casey take that back to the department, take a look at that and see what could be added, and we can take these minutes up later. I think in terms of the motion, certainly saying conditional final approval of the plan as submitted with the addition of a sidewalk as required by the board on a motion made by Nelson and seconded by Bob and all of that.
Right.
Would be an appropriate way for the bolded section on line 47 and on to be directed. And whether there's some addition of discussion, let the department take a look at that. And Bill, if you want to have some input with them to see what you want to make sure is clear in there. I think all of that is fine. And let's just defer the approval of these to our next meeting to give a chance for those things to be reflected in the minutes.
We'll do that. I got a couple more comments on these minutes.
Okay. Yes, we can absolutely do that. What other comments do you have? And I have one comment, but let's hear yours.
Page 5, and you have to count the pages to get to 5 because the pages aren't numbered. But it's section number 11 and A, and it has to do with the notes that should be added. These are conditions. The applicant shall add signage per section 31113 of the site plan regulations. It says for the 2 accessible parking spaces to the plan. I think it should say the 2 handicapped accessible parking places is what it's talking about there, and not there's just 2 parking spaces on the plan.
Okay.
And then there's one more somewhere here. This page. There's one. Oh, this is page 10. And let me see. It has to do with item number 6, and it's in the last paragraph, and it's line 52. And this is Mr. Best talking. It says, or Mr. Welch confirmed that the storage units will not have electricity in it. There will be no truck rentals at this location. And I think you asked about trailers or truck rentals. I think you were.
Yeah, we talked about U-Hauls and My Boxes and all of those things, and he indicated none of those things would be part of the
Yeah, but this
project.
just says trailers. So I think it should include, this
Just says trucks. Yeah, no trucks, trailers, or My Box type. Actually, My Box is a brand, but pod storage, whatever they're called.
Yeah. I wanted to get, I think that's part of the emotions, part of it was important. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on minutes? My comment is that I'd love to see the return of page numbers. Let's just have those on these.
Fair enough.
Any other, if there's none other, then let's table the consideration of these minutes for next time to see some of these things added in here. And that concludes the items on our agenda for the night, and we would take up a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved.
Second? Second by Nelson Disco. Neil, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Alistair?
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Counselor Boyd?
Boyd votes aye.
Nelson Disco?
Aye.
Bob Best votes aye as well. 5-0-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much for all of the work and getting through this fairly busy agenda. And have a great night.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning. I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.